7:15?
7:14.
It's 7:14.
Okay, I go by that clock.
Well,
Don't go by that clock, that's
That hasn't
never
been
right.
right in 30 years.
That's the union clock. That's the union clock.
Is this for today or something new?
It's not my clock.
Well,
It's a retirement
We'll use
Okay,
this
folks, here
time.
we are once again.
You're gonna let me know, John.
To do makeup.
Seven 7:15.
Okay,
Okay. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The West Haven Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing and regular meeting on Wednesday, August 17th, 2022, in the Harriet North Room, second floor, City Hall, 355 Main Street, West Haven, Connecticut, at 7:15 p.m. to consider the following.
good evening. First, let me introduce the panel up here, and then I will go over the rules for the meeting. To my far right is Planner Chris Soto, Assistant Planner Kathy Coniff, Alternate Sammy Rivera, Commissioner Carol Porto, Alternate Chuck Sintarski, Commissioner Ed Weiss, Commissioner Brett Caution, Alternate Rich DeLeo, myself, John Clifford, the Chairman. So we have 4 commissioners, and the alternates, we will alternate when we vote tonight on the ones, because one commissioner's not here. Tonight, I'll call each applicant forward. They'll be able to step forward to present their case. Then I'll call for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application. Then I'll call 3 times anyone opposed to the application. The applicant will be the only one who is allowed to rebut. And with that, we'll have the first application. Oh, start. No, pledge allegiance first time. Can you remind me? Not used to the camera. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One other clerical thing, I have a motion to approve last month's minutes. Have a second? Okay, any questions or concerns? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are accepted. Now we can call the first application.
First application tonight is 1083-1081 Orange Avenue. The applicant is seeking a variance of section 20.1 to properly acknowledge that the lots are 2 separate building lots and comply with the assessor's records. Parcel A, to permit 7,500 square feet lot where 10,000 feet is required. To permit a 78-foot minimum road frontage where 100 foot is required. Parcel B, to permit 8,000 square foot lot where 10,000 is required, and a side yard variance to permit 0 feet where 15 feet is required. In an RB Regional Business District, owner applicant is DHI Enterprises LLC. The file is number 014-22V. The applicant step forward, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, staff, Your Honor. My name is Jeffrey Gordon. I'm president of Codaspodi and Associates, doing business at 263 Boston Post Road in the town of Orange. I'm a land use planner, landscape architect. I'm representing DHI Enterprises LLC. And what they have here is a parcel that has had 2 buildings on it since 1964 and second building in 1985. They are shown in the tax assessor's map as map 46, parcel 16 and 17 respectively. They've been separately taxed for all these years. And the assessor's map shows these 2 parcels, 16 and 17. Part of an older subdivision when they had the much smaller lots that then get combined together through the years. But it has been recognized as 2 tax parcel lots for many, many years. And for the sake of ownership, they're looking to do the housekeeping of making them official as two separate lots. As you know, you cannot have a subdivision by the tax assessor any more than you could have a subdivision by the probate court. The subdivision needs to go through a zoning process, and that apparently was never done. So in order to do that, to recognize the two separate buildings and different ownership, we want to ask to commemorate these as two official building lots. And to do that, we needed the variances that were read into the record beforehand. It's a frontage, an area variance. There's not going to be any change in the buildings. There's not going to be any change in the site. There's not going to be any change in the use at this point in time. The only thing is that a nationwide operator for oil change and lube would be acquiring the property. Take 5 Oil and Lube is going to be the first facility in Connecticut. They have 700+ nationwide. They're just entering New England, and this would be one of their first ones that they would take possession of. So that is why we're asking for the variances. Again, the city has recognized these as two parcels for probably 35 years, so we're just trying to make sure it's done right.
When you say take possession, are they just going to take over the portion of the property where the oil change is now?
Yes.
And leave the other one to run the mess that they have there?
Well, that's that owner. This is this owner.
Okay, but are they buying the property or are they going to lease it?
They're going to buy the property.
Okay, they're buying that half of the property
Yes,
if
sir.
we grant the,
Yes, sir.
okay.
So this is basically clerical to fix something that should have been done a long time ago. The deed must not match up then.
Well, that's the thing, we did the survey and we find a deed and we don't find two parcels, but we go to the tax records and it shows two parcels. And we go back and we do the deed search and we don't find it.
But they're taxed as two parcels right now.
Tax is two parcels.
Okay.
You don't
Anybody?
happen to have the field card by any chance, do you?
I have the property listings
You
from,
can just pass it around so we can see.
can I get it back?
Okay, questions? Do you have any questions, or any comments first? Ms. Connick?
Not at this time.
Mr. Soto?
Mailings done?
Mr. Rivera?
No, thank you.
So it just was a mistake, is that?
No, it wasn't. Someone, in 1964, when, I don't know, I was in elementary school, they did the first one,
I was in
and they
college.
never finished the process of correcting it on the deeds or whatever. They're taxing them as two separate lots. I don't know how it happened. It's something that you run into every once in a while. They're doing no work there, but one building's being sold, and there's no deed that matches up with the land. But it's been taxed as a lot, two separate lots. It was originally 4 lots, and they were combined, is from what I've read. Mr. Sintarski, any questions?
No,
Mr. Weiss?
no, not at this time.
Mr. Kasha?
I just want to see the field.
Okay. Mr. DeLeo?
That's the,
That's,
Commissioner Clifford, I would like to put into the records that the mailings were done, and they also posted the property with the proper signage.
Okay.
Any comments from any other departments, Cal?
Not on this, nope.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mr. Chair,
Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? And what,
If we could just ask Mr. Gordon to reproduce copies of those for us, and so
Yes.
that we could put them in the file.
okay. Mr. Gordon, at some point, could you reproduce a couple of, give them, what do you need, just 2 copies? Yeah.
All the
or one
copies you
copy?
just,
Yeah, just a copy of everything to put in the file.
Okay.
For the record.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Third and final call. Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Third and final call. Anyone opposed to this application? Seeing none, taking of evidence is closed. Next application.
next application tonight is 588 Washington Avenue, a waiver of Article 2, Section 21.5B, Section 6 of the City of West Haven zoning regulations, to mount solar panels which will be visible from the street to allow for a maximum sun exposure in a VDO, Village District Overlay. Owner is Melissa Williams, applicant is Demetrius Himes, file number 015-22V.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Demetra Hines. I'm here representing Sunrun tonight. And as you just said, we are looking to fit our customer with solar panels at their home. I did provide the plans, which you can see exactly where they are going to be positioned on the southern-facing roof and their back roof, which won't be seen by the road at all. I did bring a couple of pictures after the fact. I didn't think of it before, but just if you wanted to pass it around so you can see better view, they're just Google pictures of the roof and whatnot, so.
Okay. Now, if you pass those around, because we have to, that's why we had to ask for copies from Mr. Gordon, can we keep those? Because they have to, if you're gonna present them, they have to stay in the record.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Someone wanna,
You don't want to share them with us?
Oh, yeah,
If you
absolutely.
want to.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
We're going to keep them from you, that's all.
Sorry. Don't mind me, this is my first time
It's
doing
okay.
this, so I'm just a little nervous.
Well, don't be.
I can tell you what happened to the last person.
I don't want to know.
okay. Anything else you would like to add?
Not at this time, just basically that we'd ask that you do approve the variance, just so that we can provide the customer with, the best possible outcome. And they are looking to offset their electric bill by 100% in order, by doing this, so,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you. I'm gonna call, as I said before, 3 times for,
Sure.
3 times against. If someone speaks against, you wanna get back up and rebut it, you can,
Okay.
okay? Anyone in favor of this application? Anyone in favor of this application? Third and final call, anyone in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Seeing none, taking of evidence is closed. Next application?
Next application is 53 Dawson Avenue. Several variances to build a single-family dwelling. Number 1, to permit 3.3 feet on the northwest side of the yard and 5.3 on the northeast side of the yard where 15 feet is required. Number 2, a rear yard to permit 24.6 feet where 30 feet is required. Building coverage to permit 47.1% where 20% is allowed. Maximum pervious surface to permit 50% where 15% is allowed. Maximum lot coverage to permit 50% where 35% is allowed. Minimum open space to permit 50% where 65% is allowed. In an R2 single-family detached residence district under Section 11 of the City of West Haven zoning regulations. Owner is Richard Moore Jr. and Ellen L. Manning Moore. Applicant is Richard Moore Jr., file number 16-22.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm looking to build a single-family home.
Excuse me, just give your name and
Oh,
address, sir.
Richard Moore,
And your-
101 First Avenue, West Haven.
Okay.
So I'm looking to build a single-family home, like he just stated, on a property that was delinquent for many years. The city had acquired the property, and prior to the city acquiring the property, this parcel was about 85% buildings. One was a bar with a residence above, and behind that, there was another single-family residence. So since then, city had knocked them down, and it's been an eyesore for the whole neighborhood. I purchased it last year in April with the intent of building a single-family home.
Okay.
This
How's it
property
listed
is
on the
a-
field card? Does anybody have the field card for this property? Is it listed as a building lot legal?
Yes,
It was, yeah,
and it's on the deed as a use for single-family home.
When you bought
From the
it,
city.
I mean, you put here that you bought it with the agreement that you could build on it. That was the city agreeing to this?
Yes, on the deed, it says
Do
single-family
you
home.
have a copy of that?
Of the deed, do I have a
Yes.
copy? Most likely, yes. do I hand this to? Just give it to.
Thanks, Ted.
Pass that back.
Is it on there, Kath?
Oh, I didn't read it.
Oh.
I thought you, I'm sorry, let me just put this back and then you could read it if you want me to.
Yeah, why don't you just read it rather than,
It's definitely a deed.
pardon me? Give it to Kathy and she can check it.
Oh,
We
okay.
can- Instead of having everybody read it and holding the whole meeting up. Either that or just.
Okay. 12 people to whom this presents shall come, greeting, know ye. That I, the city of West Haven, a municipal corporation organized under the law of the state of Connecticut, have an address at 355 Main Street, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516. Grantor, for the consideration of $35,000 and no cents and other valuable consideration received to its fully satisfaction to Richard L. Moore Jr. and Alan L. Manning Moore, having the address of 101 First Avenue, West Haven, Connecticut, 06516. Thereinafter, the guarantee, not demise, release, and forever quitclaim, and does by these presents for itself and its assessors and assigns justly and absolutely remise, release the forever quitclaim unto and said guarantee, its successor and assign forever, all the rights, titles, interests, claims, and demands, whatever at the said grantor as ought to have in and to all located at 55 and 55 and a half Dawson Avenue, situated in the city of West Haven, Connecticut, and more fully described in Schedule A, attached within and made part of hereon. Let's see what else. Successor, the proper use and behoove so that neither of the grantor nor its successor nor assigned nor any other person under it or them shall thereafter have the claim rights or titles or to the premise or any part thereof, but therefrom, and they are by the presence forever bared, it's excluded. This is all right.
I do need to
And it
clarify
does-
one thing, though, that it wasn't permission to build, it was restricted to build a single-family unit.
According to that?
Not to
I
this.
didn't hear that in that document.
No,
Right.
More to
Said
it.
permission
That
are
didn't
subject
come up
to
in
the
the
deed
document, no.
restrictions that the said. Okay, so on the bottom of Schedule A, if I knew that was there, the first part, I would have just read it. Said premise are subject to a deed restriction that the site may only be used for single-family residence. On the
Okay.
Schedule A.
That's in there now.
Yeah.
Now we got it.
Yeah, that's all,
That was-
that's all I was looking for.
Okay.
And they
The
write, and they
question
make
would
this small
be-
enough, even my glasses don't.
Did you feel like you were in
And I know
school reading in
a
front
lot
of
of
everybody?
them are
I'm
small.
like,
Right.
Nancy, what was the address?
Needed
of
that
one
read
you were
into the
reading?
record.
On the
Gotcha.
first page.
53
It's
and
55.
Also, I'd like to pass around
Excuse, one second,
GIS
sir.
map.
53.
Can we have everybody's attention to the gentleman here? Thank you.
I'd like to pass around also the GIS maps from 2008 to 2016, showing the buildings that were on the lot at the time.
Anything else you wanted to add, sir?
This property is an eyesore for the whole neighborhood. The whole neighborhood knows that. So I'm thinking anything that I do there is gonna just improve.
No, are you going to live there?
I am not gonna live there,
No.
no. Also, it's on a severe hill. And I don't see it being an issue since there was houses there prior. They were knocked down, and then building a new one there now.
Now, I visited the property today.
Yeah,
The house on the street behind there, I'm not sure, is that,
looked like the white stucco one?
yeah, the one behind it?
Yeah.
Which would be directly behind it.
Correct.
They are using part of that property as an access to get into their property for parking and access.
Well, no.
How
see,
much of that property is theirs, or yours, or what's the division
Okay,
there?
so the division is right where the big concrete blocks are. The whole paved area is now 55 Dawson. Where
Okay,
the-
so that's
where the
not,
current-
not included in this,
That's not included. You have to
discussion we're
see on
having
that
tonight.
GIS that I passed around, there's a yellow
Okay.
line that shows the division of the two properties.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just to kind of clarify, so the deed says 55 and 55 and a half. You will see that your GIS maps say 55 and 53. So there's a little bit of a combination of the issue of the first application we heard this evening, that there's two separate parcels with two separate tax numbers, and it didn't,
They have separate property cards,
yeah,
and they're being taxed as lots, both of them.
yes. But we don't see that reflected in that initial deed. So I believe you'll see the deed says for one half of 55 and 55 and a half.
How far back does that go?
It goes 3 feet from the white stucco building behind me, which
Oh,
is
so
Old
there's,
St. Frank.
there's more land in the back there then, than it appears, because that's overgrown right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Soto?
It was 24 feet. Mr. Weiss, there was 24 feet from the house to the property line in the back.
Okay.
Any questions? Ms. Coniff, questions?
No,
Do we have all the mailings and stuff were sent out?
yes, I have all of it.
Any
It's
comments
just the
from
hand
police or
things.
fire?
Nope.
Mr. Rivera, any
No.
questions?
No, thanks.
The,
Chuck? No? Ed?
I visited the property.
I visited, my only question is, what's the hardship?
What's the hardship?
Yes.
Well, it's an eyesore. I have my grandkids living next door, and it's dangerous the way it is.
I'm not
this point.
disagreeing with anything you're saying, but
Okay.
our board grants hardships, and it has to be something that runs with the property. You've told us what you'd like to do.
Right.
You bought it from the city in good faith, I agree with
Gotcha.
all that. I've been out there, like Eddie, I agree, I think what you're looking to do would be fantastic, but
Right.
do you have a
Well,
hardship?
I mean, the property is caving in, it's falling down. And I own the house downhill from it. The concrete blocks are on the edge, some are tilted, one is already fallen down, whether it's on my property or the neighbor's property.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
caving down towards the small house where my family lives.
So, Mr. Chair, so the way the law is written, 8-2, it states that you have the right to reinstate all your nonconformities. You would have to explicitly abandon them, which means you write a letter to the city saying, I abandon all nonconformities. This particular site is a little unique in that there used to be a building in just about the same exact footprint that exists, that is being proposed for the house. So you could argue that the building that used to be there could be reestablished and the use that used to be there. There is some legal precedent to say that less intensive uses or when minimizing nonconformities, that is grounds for granting of a variance. In this case, the uniqueness would be that they're replacing what used to be a commercial endeavor with a residential structure. So in some ways, you're reducing a non-conforming use, even though the footprint itself might be.
Now, do we
expanded.
have to reaffirm the condition that it can only be a single-family house then, if we give approval?
I don't think you would need to, that's in the,
Because it's
it's
in the-
restricted.
I have to do that.
And I'd also like to mention, Mr. Moore, you did mention something about your topography in the back. There's a hill.
Yeah,
That's why you pushed the house up.
yeah,
Was
that-
it-
the house
it was a
had to go
continuous
forward to
house.
where the existing foundation is. The back is literally a vertical drop, which I'll have to build a retaining wall and work with my neighbor Frank on that to see how we want to go about doing that.
My question, Mr. Soto, is when you're rebuilding in a situation like this, my understanding is that you can go only to cover in the boundaries of the former footprint of the structure that was there, without enhancing that.
That is, if you want to replace it as of right.
As
so
a bar.
As of right, you would be able to keep your previous nonconformities, your previous setbacks.
Right.
This is not doing that, which is why he's requesting variances from you folks.
What were the originals, do we know?
Bar. Well, but I would think we have to look at one. This would tell us that in the future, if the city were to sell a small property like that, I would suggest they get the variance first and then sell it, and we wouldn't be in this situation. And it's been done in the past where they came before us, got the variances, and then sold it to somebody, and it was all set to go, rather than do this here. But as far as what Mr. Soto said, he's right, you could rebuild that, and it burned down, and unless it was written that they weren't gonna use it for this anymore, you could rebuild a bar there technically, and I don't know of anybody that really wants that.
No.
So.
I'm sure no one does.
Nobody wants that.
We're at a point where,
Mr. Chairman,
there's some paper errors here that could have been corrected earlier.
I should also mention that since the city has deed restricted it, if we're gonna deny it, you've denied the one allowable use per the deed restriction.
Yeah, I agree with that. Once they did that, it's, for us to deny it.
It's almost
we're gonna-
impossible.
We're gonna get sued, and
Yeah.
the city's gonna be paying the lawyers' fees for them too.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that. Anybody else would like to ask anything else?
If you look on the plans too, you could see what they could show you at the old footprint of the building.
I visited, I've seen the old footprint.
Plus,
Yeah, I
if
did
you
too.
look on the graphs that he sent around about the whole property was filled with a building on it. If you
Two
look-
buildings
I
that
think
actually
Chuck still has
were
them, if
attached.
you could pass them. There was another building attached to the one.
No,
Oh, you did pass them,
they went
okay.
down there.
But all of the buildings in the area, if you were to go up Dawson Avenue, go any house in the middle of the hill, stand between the two houses right on the border. If you were tall enough, you probably could touch each house. That's how close most of the houses on that hill are. So it's not anything that was there, and I was familiar, as my grandmother lived in one of those houses, and then my aunt, so I used to work over there, and I could practically touch the houses. That's how close they are there.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you, sir. I'm gonna
Thank you very
call,
much.
and if someone, you'll get a chance, because I'm gonna call for it and against, and then you'll have your right to come up.
Thank you.
Okay? Anyone in favor of this application? Just come up. Come on up. Just come up. You can get in line behind him and just state your name and address and say what you would like to say, sir.
My name is Willard Parker. I live at 33 Dawson Avenue, so this application directly impacts the value of where my house is. I've known Mr. Moore for a long time, at least 20-some-odd years. I do business with him. He's done some custom cabinetry for me as a remodeling contractor. He has always produced quality work. He's also been building on the adjacent street, Arlington Street, took down a real eyesore there, and has built a beautiful single-family house which is on the verge of completion. It becomes an asset to the neighborhood. Mr. Moore's professionalism and his desire to enhance the value of what's there stands head and shoulders above whatever was there in the past. I have no question in my mind that if you approve his application, it will be an enhancement to the neighborhood. If it were anything else other than a single family, I wouldn't be so much in favor of it. But I've seen his work, I've been on the paying end for some of his work, and I've never been disappointed. What he plans to do is going to be a quality project and an enhancement to the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application?
I'm not here for that, but I own a house in Arlington
But
Street.
just, please.
John Haran.
Identify yourself and
John
address.
Haran.
Your address
Haran, H-O-R-A-N,
and your address.
on 9 Baldwin Street. But I own a home on 39 Orange Street. My son rents it from me. He's remodeled a house across the street from me, beautiful. He's redoing a house down the street, beautiful. That has been a giant hole on Dawson for I don't know how long. It's dangerous, and whatever he wants to do, should allow him to do it. That's what I say. Because it only can improve the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Come on up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Zanitas, and I live at 23 Dawson, so I'm right down the hill. And I can touch my neighbors' houses. So I'm definitely in favor of this applicant. You know, I pass this lot every day. I have a 16-year-old dog. This is part of my route. And it's more than an eyesore. The hardship part of it, that's not, at current conditions, that's not a safe lot. Okay, you have exposed brick, you have exposed concrete, you have rebar. Okay, it's uneven. You would never be able to do anything but demo it down. You know, and I've seen Mr. Moore's work in the neighborhood. You know, he's done 2 houses that I know of on Arlington Street, which is right around the corner. And, you know, he's beautified the neighborhood, and I've seen the quality of his work. And nobody wants that bar, okay? You know, sometimes when I'm outside, at 2 o'clock in the morning, people will come by and they'll ask about that bar. So there's no way we want the bar. So I'm just totally in favor, and, you know, hope you guys grant that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application?
Good evening, board members. Feels like a condo meeting. I own 52 Prospect Avenue. My name is Al Perillo. Rick had done some work for me. I've done some work for Rick. I'm just kind of duplicating what the other people have said that came up here. He's done quality work. He's enhanced the neighborhood. I mean, my property was kind of a pass-through where people came from the bar, so I'm happy not to see the bar there anymore. And, you know, we had a few incidents there, but, you know, Rick has enhanced the neighborhood. As long as he's not putting up a monstrosity, I think that's what other people are worried about. I think he does quality work, and it can only benefit the neighborhood. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Third and final call. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Anyone opposed to this?
Good evening. My name is Paul Kaplow. I live at 57 Dawson Avenue. I've been a resident of West Haven for 43 years. I've lived on Dawson Avenue for 37 years. I applaud Mr. Moore, and he has a right to rebuild what was there on the same footprint. It's the scale, the size that I'm opposed to. There was a 1.5-story building there. He would like to make it now a 3-story building with parking underneath. It's just, it doesn't meet any of the setback requirements, doesn't meet any of the front yard requirements, just doesn't meet the requirements. I agree that he should build a single-family house there. He has that right to. But he has to build it to the specifications that were there. That's the only objection I have to it. It's the size.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to oppose this application? Anyone else wish to oppose this application? Third and final call. Anyone else wish to oppose the application? Applicant has the right to come up and rebut anything that was said. Josh?
I can understand where Paul's coming from, but there were 2 houses on this property that took up over 80% of the property. I'll let you know that.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Seeing that, take it, evidence is closed. Next application.
Next application tonight is 12 Baldwin Street, an application for a special use exception for short-term rentals. The applicant should demonstrate the requirements that are expected for short-term rental under Article 1, Section 2 of Table 39.1 of the City of West Haven zoning regulations. Owner applicant is Kim and Jeff Ambrose, file number 17-22 SUE.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jeffrey Ambrose, and this is my lovely wife, Kim Ambrose, and we are the proud owners of 12 Baldwin Street. We purchased this home in January, and we're looking for an exception for a short-term rental. A little bit about the house. It's an oceanfront property. It's 2,300 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, has 1-car garage and can fit about 5 to 7 cars in the driveway. It is in total consistent with all other short-term rentals within the West Haven area. And again, we're just really honored and happy to just be a part of this community, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
How many weeks out of the year are you planning to rent?
That's a great question. We pretty much did about 6 months of renovation to the house. We decided to take this route around June. We've been away on vacation, just came back from Belize and Cape Cod with our family. But we do hope to possibly have it rented out for the majority, of course, the summer months being primary, as a way to, to get back some of the money that we invested
And you
into
would
the home.
live in the house the other months?
Yes, so this is our second residence. We are a full-time resident. Our primary location is in West Hartford, Connecticut. But this is our retirement home. This is the home we want to pass down to our children. We do not plan on selling this house. This is something we hope to have forever, so.
So 3 months, 4 months?
It really will depend. It will depend.
Yeah, we don't know because this is our first time actually doing this.
This is the first time that we have this home, so.
Yeah,
It will
so-
depend on the need of the community, and it will depend on all of those pieces.
Yeah. And we're even potentially considering maybe some short-term nurse rentals if there's a need for it. So we're just kind of playing it as we go.
What, a 7-day minimum stay?
Yes, of course,
Yes.
of course.
So you're gonna put this on Airbnb or one of the sites that, people search for rentals?
That is
Yes.
correct.
Are you managing the property yourself?
Absolutely.
See, one of my concerns is, and we've heard this from many, many people who have, who are neighbors of people who have done Airbnbs here in town, some of them being legal, some of them being illegal. You know, if you're in West Hartford and all of a sudden somebody decides to have a party and they're whooping it up, you know, what do you say to your neighbors?
Project manager.
So we have 4 cameras located all around the exterior of the property. We have 2 property managers.
Two property what? I'm sorry?
Managers.
Managers,
That
okay.
we're
Yeah.
10 minutes away.
Yep, that live 10 minutes away, and
Right, that's why I asked if you were.
Yeah.
Yes,
You said
and-
you were,
Like,
that's,
we oversee it, but of
We
course, we have
oversee
people that are
Yeah.
You do,
close in
okay.
proximity,
Yes. Alright.
that, for instance, one day something went out and they were there within 10 minutes to help and assist, so.
and if the neighbors are having a problem,
They have-
will they be able to make contact with the managers, you, how will this work?
Okay, so.
Only
great-
because if you've sat in our seats, believe me, we've had numerous people come up here extremely mad about the amount of taxes they're paying, and then they can't even get to sleep at night because the music's blaring, somebody's having a party, they're drinking, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, so we are strict with our rules. We are looking to make sure that all regulations and policies coincide with what our neighbors want. Our neighbors have our direct contact. We've actually been in communication with many of our neighbors, especially the close ones. They are well aware of the property being on Airbnb and for short-term rental use. We're also having a neighborhood gathering on September, inviting everyone that we actually sent the letters out to come see the house. It'd be a open house kind of thing. We'll provide hors d'oeuvres and just so they know who we are and what we're trying to do with the home.
Do you own other rental properties?
This is our first one.
First one,
Yes.
okay. Because that neighborhood, I'm I've been in that house when it was for sale.
Okay.
And I know you've got the 2-bedroom, you gotta go outside and go upstairs, and it's not connected.
It's
to-
connected now, so we did a lot of
Oh,
renovation
okay.
Yeah,
work.
you don't have to go outside to
No,
get in.
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, but the houses are very close proximity to each other down in that area. And when people are on vacation and they're paying $3,000 or $4,000 a week for a party house for a good time, it's gonna be very difficult to tell them that they can't have music outside, or they can't sit out by a fire pit, or or they have to be quiet because the next-door neighbors are all going to work tomorrow morning. And we've had numerous people come to this board and tell us all of the bad experiences that the neighborhood is experiencing because of the short-term rental. I'm sorry to say that I don't agree with it. I think the city has to put some kind of restrictions on this because we are not a beach town where we have short-term rentals. And people are paying, we had a couple of us paying $18,000 a year in taxes, city of West Haven, and they have parties next door frequently. And they're very upset with the city.
Right, and we would have those same concerns too. However, with the Airbnb and Turbo and all of the outside, resources that we can utilize to rent the home, we clearly and explicitly say that there is rules and regulations. There are quiet hours. After a certain hour, they are not allowed to be outside. We do not allow parties. We don't allow parties at our house.
It's hard to tell somebody on vacation they can't have a party.
But from what we've had and the success that we have had with that, we have not had people have parties. There is an occupancy number as well, where we're not allowing,
Wait a minute,
people
if
to
this is
have
your
that many
first
people.
one, what experience?
Excuse me, let them talk.
Okay.
Thank you. So with that being said, we have not had that concern where there's, noise after 10. We've had, some of the neighbors also talk to us and share with us that as well, that they have been happy with the people that have come and there has not been.
So you've had it
noise.
rented before, prior to this, today?
Yeah, we've had family stay, and we're working on getting an Airbnb and piloting
So why are
that
you
as
here
well.
now?
Go ahead, go through the process.
To get the permit,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
yeah. To get-
I just to state that I did talk to both of them.
Yes.
Because we did have a complaint that there was a party, and they weren't aware of our regulation, and I asked them to come before your board, and there was no questions asked. They came in, they filled out the paperwork, and they came in. And I just want everybody to remember to look at your regulation under short-term rental, and you can put conditions on it, as we have before, and make sure that they're gonna follow these regulations inside.
I'd like to just add one more thing. If it is approved, and, there are these low parties, if there is the proper complaints, we're volunteers, but you would be called back before this board, and you would probably lose the permit if it's granted here tonight. That's our only recourse on that. So if it is granted, just be aware that you could be told you'd have to come back before it. And obviously, sometimes you can do everything you want, but not everybody that rents does what they say they're gonna do. So it is a problem, especially when houses are so close together. So, but you could be called back, so I don't want you aware of that, that you know that now.
Yes,
Okay.
totally understand.
Okay. Any other comments here?
I've been, to rental places all over the country, and the same thing, or, you see signs everywhere, no loud music, no this, and you hear it from time to time. And it is up to whoever the manager is to knock on the door and say, hey, listen, knock it off. They have to have somebody there, like they say, if it's 10 minutes away, and the neighbors can call that person and at least warn them, hey, remember when you rented this? Remember the conditions, whether you guys take a deposit in or a security deposit of some sort and say, you're gonna lose that or
Correct.
forfeit that. Some people may not wanna lose that, and they may pay attention to that and not put the loud music, so.
Right.
I'd give them the benefit of the doubt.
And,
Yeah,
may I
go
say
ahead.
something?
Yes, you may.
I have rented and with family members and never had a problem, not here in Rhode Island. And, as I said at the last one that came before us, that we have a regulation that allows for this. And I know, as I said personally, I would not want one living next door to me, an Airbnb, but this is the regulation, and if you meet all the requirements, that's all we ask, that they meet the requirements, and if we want to add some conditions, that's what we can do.
Just so
Thank you.
everybody's aware, this board does not write the regulations, we
That's
just
right.
follow the regulations. so everybody aware of that. We didn't write it, we'd follow.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, anything else you like that?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and I will, gonna call for and against, and if there's, you have the right to rebut if there's people speaking against you.
Sounds
Okay?
good.
Thank you
Anyone
for your
wish to
time.
speak- Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Third and final call, anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Okay, come on up.
Hello, my name is Brian Dostilio. I live at 15 Baldwin. They're not entirely being truthful. This has been going on since May. They have rented this Airbnb out since May. I've moved in here a year ago to this quiet neighborhood, and almost too quiet, great neighbors, and this is not an Airbnb neighborhood. This listing that they've already listed had, I'll read it off to you. Let's see. This is great for small family reunions, a friends gathering, or a girls retreat, or weddings. Weddings. Hot tubs, great, but August 6th, and I just found out about this tonight. I didn't get a letter. There were no signs posted saying that there was a hearing tonight. So I'm sorry I don't have a photo to give you, but I can print it out and give it for your records. But August 6th, there were 7 cars parked in the driveway, and the driveway fits 3. They put the rest on the grass. And there was another car outside, right? The cops were already called because there were an excess amount of cars on another party within their first rental weekend. No one had the stickers to park on our driveway, on our street. You need the special stickers for our neighborhood. So this is listed as a party house, 10 people, they fit 4 beds in 1 room. This is not a quiet beach house getaway. If they have cameras and they saw 7 cars in the driveway, there's something, and another car posted outside, that's 8 cars. They've got to know that there's a party going on, and they did nothing. Nothing about that. So, I just want to say that I get what they're doing, but this is not, a party neighborhood, and this is not a party house, and something needs to be done about that. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Excuse me.
where did you see that advertisement?
I have it on Airbnb. You can go on Airbnb.com right now. Go to West Haven. It's listed as $650 a night. Also, they were doing 2-night rentals. They were not doing 7-day rentals. So even after they they had to submit. Maybe they didn't know. I get it, but the rule says 7 days. They've been doing 2-night rentals. So they've been shuffling in people every 2 nights. They've been making more noise. They come in, they're on vacation, having a great time, 10 people there. They didn't do anything to change to 7 nights, and that's that's uncalled for.
Excuse me, what's it?
What was his name and address?
Brian.
Brian Dostilio, 15 Baldwin. Did not get a letter, but I lived there. I moved in a year ago.
Okay, well, he's checking that. You may continue, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner and board members. My name's Doug Casella. I live at 12 Baldwin Street, right next to Brian. I'd like to first start by echoing a few of Brian's comments. There was no sign posted about the Airbnb meeting tonight. They have been operating, and ignorance is no excuse for not knowing the regulations. So they've been operating already for a month. I have, while I was sitting here, tried to rent their house, and I was able to rent it for 2 nights, 3 nights. There is no 7-night minimum. They do advertise weddings and gatherings, as Brian said. I'd like to say hello to my new neighbors. Pleasure to meet you. I have never met them. We have no invitation to any type of gathering. It is a quiet neighborhood, and just by the certificate of decision that was made for the city pertaining to the Airbnb that pulled off the website, they don't have the permit, which we're talking about tonight. Minimum of 7 days. On Airbnb and VRBO, there is no requirement to rent it for 7 days. 4, this is the city's rules, 4 unrelated adults. They advertise 10 people, and I get it, you have a family there that are all related, but it doesn't say that you can't have unrelated adults. That's the city's rule on Airbnbs. The question that I have, how does the city, you're all volunteers, how do we enforce this? If you grant this, and there's a party going on, and the very first incident that they had rented out to, it was, and I got there at the end, 4 neighbors called the police. Motorcycles, really loud, up and down the street. I thought it was an Airbnb rule that you cannot park on the street. You had to park on the property, all the vehicles. You can park as many as you want, but not on the street. And as you know, we need a permit to park on our street. So that wasn't enforced. If they had started this off, and this was the first we heard about it, I think that would put a different light on it. But they've already broken my trust. So how am I gonna trust them in the future that they're gonna comply with these regulations? I think what they're doing is good. They're young, they wanna have a house, try to cover the costs, but I don't think this is gonna work. I think you're gonna hear a lot from a lot of neighbors. You're gonna have a lot of complaints. So I would not vote for this. Thank you for your time. Sure. First name's Doug, last name Casella, 17 Baldwin. And I did take a picture. There are no signs up for the Airbnb. Thank you.
Their certification shows that Mr. D'Astilio was notified at 13 Freeland Avenue in Milford, Connecticut, 06460, and that is his mailing address on our field card.
Okay.
So his notification was sent to Milford.
Yes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman. My name's Craig Kennedy. I live at 32 Baldwin Street. I've been there 30 years. And I kind of mirror what Doug's saying about the parties, motorcycles, guys with the jackets on, with the colors on them. It was a very bad scene that day. One of the neighbors had an altercation with the guy, and the police were called. I actually, I wanted to reiterate about the property. It says you could have weddings there. I moved in 30 years ago. I didn't sign up for having weddings on my street and going on. It's just kind of ridiculous. They're absentee landlords too. The bushes had to be cut by the neighbor the other day. He called him up. Now, the bushes hadn't been cut. You couldn't walk down the sidewalk. And he got out there. He did it, just cut along the sidewalk, and called him up and told him, hey, you gotta get a landscaper over there to cut the bushes. The house is, it's not taking care of it. So, with the lies that he came up and told, he also owns Courage Rentals in Stratford. He didn't tell you that he owns a rental business. This is just part of his business. Looking forward, if you go onto the Airbnb, I have the next 3 months that are the calendar, which shows every weekend from now till November is rented. Just the weekends.
Does it
So-
tell, does it
so
tell
he-
the timeframes?
Yes. Here's the calendar of the next 3 months that are all booked up, deposits taken, and it's only the weekends. So how is he gonna hold by this 7-day rule? And then when you have so many people coming in, I got pictures here of all the people that park everywhere on the front lawns. He can't fit all the cars, so they park all over the property. it's really bad for the neighborhood. The wellness and safety is going down the drain. Every weekend, we got a big party coming, and, we all live on 50-foot lots. There's only 8 houses going up, and, parking's at a minimum already with the 50-foot lots, and everyone has 3 or 4 cars. And then you get all these people come in every weekend to have this, hey, we're gonna go party. And that's the attitude they come with, because that's what you do when you're on vacation. And I just think we need to look at it a little deeper and have some type of enforcement looking.
You mentioned there was an altercation. Do you know if anybody was arrested?
No, nobody was arrested. But at least 5 cops showed up because of the motorcycle. It was like, I'm gonna say it was a gang, because they had names on the back of their jackets. They had cases of beer on the back that they're taking off, walking in the back. One of the neighbors has pictures of all the glass bottles they leave on the wall where they could just fall off, and they leave them out there all night after the party's done. And then they could fall off, glass could break all over the rocks, people could get cut and hurt. It's a safety hazard that way. This is our life every weekend, and it's just not something we signed up for. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against?
Can I get what he had in his hand?
Pardon me?
Can I get what he had in his hand, the
Oh,
proof of the
Mr.
bookings and
Kennedy,
all that?
We have those pictures of the,
Bookings? Yeah.
So, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman,
What?
for the record, we'll just mark it Exhibit A, and it
Okay.
is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pages.
okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Casella, and I live at 17 Baldwin Street as well. Thank you for listening to us. And first, I want to start off, I've never met these neighbors, and quite frankly, I feel terrible that we're almost bashing them. But you also have to know, I've never met these neighbors. I want to know how someone snuck on my street and decided to make me crazy at night. How did this happen? How can someone be operating a business on my street? And they're here now trying to get a permit for it. Did I miss something? I just don't get this. If there's a
They
process.
were caught having it, they were told they needed a permit, so they are here. We're
I-
only aware of it because someone went in and called Mrs. Conniff there, and then she called them.
So then you appreciate my frustration that the headache has to happen and my quality of life has to be affected first, and that's just not right. As you know, we live on postage stamps. We have to like each other. We can spit and hit each other's house. You have to get along. I've never met them, but boy, I don't like the people they've invited, not in the least. There was no sign tonight. I knew about this on Saturday. I went through this process, and nothing personal, I don't like it, but I appreciate the rules aren't to like. They're to be followed, and we did. How is it that here we are? We went through it, and it feels like they came in as a secret. And I agree with Commissioner Porto. An Airbnb is a wonderful way, instead of a hotel, which can be impersonal, but not when you can reach out and touch the next neighbor. And the people that live in 2 Baldwin, they wanted to know if they could have Zoomed in. They live in Massachusetts, during the week was where they work. They had concerns, the same thing everyone's been saying.
This is the
as
first
well.
time our meeting was ever Zoomed, and I didn't know
I-
it was gonna be Zoomed
Sure.
until I walked in here today.
Absolutely, no, and I understand. But again, his comment was, had I known sooner, I could have made arrangements, but we just found this out. And then Carol Banks, again, 20 Baldwin, said the same thing. It's just that frustration that once trust is broken, I don't trust them. I haven't even met them, and I feel badly. Thank you.
You're saying you weren't noticed?
No, we were, but on
I just want to
Saturday.
put that on the record,
Yeah,
because.
absolutely, but on
so was-
Saturday.
And so is Mrs. Banks.
Yep, Carol told
Okay,
me, but
all
this,
right.
she said the same thing. Had she been given more than 2 full business days to know about the timing and the date, absolutely, we could rearrange schedules. But this, it was like we were blindsided, and that's not a good feeling for what might be coming. Nancy
that supposed to get
Casella,
'em 10 days ahead of
17
time?
Baldwin Street.
So, Mr.
Alright.
Chairman, so two things, I think, a lot of folks have testified that the property was not posted, so I think that needs to be inquired of the applicant. And their certificate of mailing is stamped for August 6th, so they had it in the post office on August 6th.
Okay, today's the 17th. Yeah, but still, you're supposed to
10
get
10
it
10 days.
10 days ahead of time, so that's
Yeah, well, the
not-
post office,
You're supposed to receive it within 15,
No more than-
no more than 15 days prior and no less than 10 days prior.
Yeah, but if they received it, it was in the 6th.
You send it out on the 6th, you're not getting it on the 7th, so it's not within that period.
No, it's just, there has to be
The
postmarked.
post office is not the greatest.
I'm not arguing for the post office, I'm just letting y'all know when it was,
They did.
mailed.
They did do the
They
mailing.
did the mailings at the right time.
anyone else?
Anyone else wish to speak against that? Come on up.
Ryan Kennedy, 32 Baldwin Street, West Haven. The only thing I'd like to add is, on their property card, their GIS property card, states that it's a 3-bedroom house. 2 bath, 1 half bath. On their listing, it shows 4 bedroom, 3 full bath. That's all.
You said how many were on the original, or on the card?
3
You said
bedroom.
3? So
Yep.
they say 4, okay.
They say 4.
We've run into this before with Airbnb. That time they listed that the 3-bedroom house that we had on Ocean Avenue, they listed it for occupancy for 10 people, if you'll recall.
Well, you're also.
On Airbnb,
But
they
if-
listed it for 10.
Okay, and again, even if this was approved, it has to be inspected by the building inspector and the fire department. So that would be, if it was, and it was passed, it would be null and void if they only have 3. But it has to be inspected according to what we're told, and these regulations are relatively new. Anyone else wish to speak in favor, against this?
John Moran, I live in 9 Baldwin Street, directly across the street. Welcome to the neighborhood. Well, all I can say is, I've come home from work and I can't get a spot in front of my house. I have a 1-car driveway, me and my daughter park in the street. I don't want to get into confrontations with people across the street from me, can you please move your cars or whatever? But I know they're from over there, and, you know, it's just, you know the neighborhood. I don't have to tell you, it's not set up for partying, and, you know, I work midnight sometimes, and, you know, you hear what's going on over there, that's all I gotta say. I'm not agree with it, I disagree with it, that's all I can say.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to, come on up, sir. Either one of you, come on.
Good evening. I'm Marilyn Wilkes. I live at 250 Ocean Avenue, which is right at the top of Baldwin Street on the corner. I've born and raised there 58 years. I've been living there, so I know the neighborhood very well. I walk my dog down there 3 times a day, so I am very aware of what's going on down there. I pick up trash down there every day. This situation is exacerbating another situation that's already going on down there, where people come down there in droves to fish, even though there are signs there. No one ever monitors the situation. So there's tons of cars, tons of noise, tons of trash. It's not the neighborhood where we need more people coming and going. It's very problematic down there. Thank you.
Go ahead, you ask.
The trash that you're picking up, is it from their renters or from the Fisher people?
There's really no way for me to know that, but the trash has dramatically increased over the past 4 months.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sir, come on.
Very briefly, thank you for giving me a moment. My name is Michael Amatrudo. My wife and I own 7 Baldwin, which has been unoccupied for quite a period of time because we've been trying to get a permit there, which we finally got on Monday. Thank you. But the reason it took us, one of the reasons it took us a year and a half to get a permit there is because we're very conscious of the neighborhood and our neighbors.
Permit for what, sir?
Excuse me?
Permit for what?
To refurbish that house at the very end on the water,
You're talking a CO
just to be able to.
or a building permit?
A building permit, excuse
Okay.
me. So, one of the reasons is because we're very conscious of the neighbors and of the setting of the neighborhood and so forth. And it's been a great hardship, really, for us for a year and a half to be there but not be able to move in. There's more to that, but this isn't the time or place for that. But I came here tonight neutral, intentionally, and to be very objective. And that was my feeling until these fine people, I'm sure, came up and were thoroughly dishonest with the committee. It's not true that they're renting just to families. It's not true that they're renting for 7 days. It's not true that they're taking care of the property. I don't live there, but I'm there just about every day, and I have never seen them, never mind met them. So I want people to make a living. Make all the money you can. That's fantastic with me, but not at the expense of the neighborhood and of the people and of the standard of living that we appreciate there. And I think the problem we've got is that there's a total lack of any control. I don't think they know, because they're absentee, exactly what's going on there. They can't know. But I can tell you that it isn't anything, any situation as it currently is set up that anybody in this room or on this committee would tolerate. And if it is going to go forward at some point, there would have to be some kind of very stringent, firm rules, regulations, which are currently not being followed. If you advertise a home with that will sleep 10 people, and you have pictures in your Airbnb with 4 beds in a room, and have walked by even the water side and see people all over the place with loud music blaring, people are going to go and have fun. They're going to live it up for $1,000 a night, which is about what they get, by the way, during the summer. About $1,000 a night. Problem is that $1,000's really killing us, really, right now, and it's only going to get worse. If they can do a better job somehow, so be it down the road. But at this point, I truly just think it's doing an injustice to the town and to its residents. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to oppose this application?
I have a question.
Let the lady come up here first, then.
My name is Heidi Lawazzo, 29 Baldwin Street, close to the corner where Ocean Avenue is. And yes, that close to the corner, I was able to hear the party noises after the curfew of 10 p.m., which West Haven has set. Also, I did not get a letter. I found out about this hearing through a neighbor approximately 2 hours ago, or before the hearing started, I should say. One of the neighbors who lives in close proximity, who's a personal friend of mine, was complaining to me because I reached out to her to see if she could come to the hearing tonight. And her big complaint is one of safety. She has dogs, as many of the neighbors do, and people enjoy walking dogs. I don't have a dog, but I know that they don't wear shoes. And at the aforementioned wall that separates the property in question from the public beach where the pink rocks are, there have been broken beer bottles. And people navigating their dogs must be mindful of the glass. So I am opposed to anybody on the street having an Airbnb. It is not the type of neighborhood for that. The noise factor alone is an issue, but the tightness, and I live near the corner, as I stated, so I get all the traffic. I try and back out of my driveway. I can't. I have to go forward out of my driveway, and still, I frequently have to avoid getting into a collision. And I don't like the idea that folks are coming on a weekend to have a party where alcohol might be involved, where individuals might be getting behind the wheel of their car. I was hit by a drunk driver when I was pregnant. I know what that's like. This is a safety issue and a noise issue. It is a quality of life issue. And it is advertised as 4 bedrooms. So I would like to know, I know that even if you have a hot water heater installed in your home, you have to have the building inspector or some sort of an inspector in West Haven come out and approve of it. And I also believe there's some sort of a rule or reg that a waterfront home undergoing renovations is not able to invest, correct me if I'm wrong, more than 30% of the appraised value of the property without putting it up on stilts. I want to know, were the building permits pulled for the renovations that our neighbor said were going on until, I don't know, what did you say, 6 months? That there was a steady stream of renovations beginning in January. I didn't think the renovations went on for 6 months
Ma'am,
because
you-
there've been so
you-
many
please,
rentals.
you have to
Sorry.
talk here.
So do the building permits that were pulled match the renovations? I know nobody has the answer now, but that is a concern. So I am opposed, as are my other neighbors that were not able to attend. I didn't get a letter. My other neighbors, some of them didn't get a letter, and it was very short notice from what I understand. So when our new neighbor there, who's petitioning you, mentioned that there was some sort of mass mailing, and that I would like to know who were the neighbors that he spoke with personally, as he said, that said this is a great business plan. Who are these neighbors? Because none of the neighbors I've spoken with like the idea of a party house with broken glass and noise that can be heard all the way up to Ocean Avenue, the intersection of Baldwin with Ocean. Thank you.
Anyone else wish?
Mr. Soto, is she on the list?
No, she's not on the list, but she's outside the 200-foot radius to receive notice, which is the.
200-foot radius?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, it's 50% of the appraisal value when it has to be lifted.
Okay, well,
I
either
just was
way you
correcting
slice it.
that.
I'm just wondering if the permits pulled for the renovations match the renovations that were done. Because one of the advertisements for the property says it was fully renovated, which is a selling feature. Was it fully renovated since they purchased it? I don't know, but that's what it alluded to in one of the advertisements for the property.
Are you aware of permits?
I don't, I'm not, but again, I don't issue the permits for that kind of work, so, but we can definitely speak with the building official.
Okay,
We know that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against this application? Come on up.
Doug Casella, 17 Baldwin Street, and I already spoke earlier. I just had a quick question for the commission. I think this lady had mentioned that the owners did come in to apply for a permit for the Airbnb, and they knew that they had to have this meeting, so why was it allowed to continue for over a month? So who enforces that? So if you approve this, we can't enforce that. What confidence do we have anything else is gonna be enforced?
Enforcement on this would be if they were to have it, if it was approved and there was a problem, you need to call the zoning office, the police department. Once then the complaint would be made, they would be forced to come back here. In 99% of the time, we would just pull the permit. But we're all volunteers. They work there full-time, so the complaint, that's where the original complaint was made. That's why they were here and before us.
Okay, so
Until the
some volunteers over here, but city over here, so if I have a complaint, I'm coming
Yes.
here.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so then my
Well,
question would be,
It depends. If you want it to be on record, if there's noise bothering you, Don't wait to come get me, you call the police department.
Oh, understand,
Yeah.
understand.
I can't help you
But
that
we,
day.
we, obviously, one of the neighbors came with the complaint, yet
Correct.
it wasn't enforced. It's kind of like you're going down the road, you get pulled over, a police officer asks for your license, you don't have one. It says, well, continue on your merry way.
Well, it kind of
So
was
why weren't they
enforced.
told to stop the Airbnb as it exists, because they didn't have the proper permits? That's the part that I'm confused after, this has been going on for over a month. How long
I've
has-
only had one complaint.
Does it take more than one? They
Well,
don't
because
have,
we
they're not in
called them in and they
compliance.
did come in.
So the first complaint, to answer your question, the first complaint triggered this. If nobody knew about it, nobody knew about it. So then it takes time to process mailings, it takes process, you can't just put a
So-
cease and
You know,
desist
if
on
I
it
can, you know,
without due process.
I could see now what you're saying is correct, but if it continued, somebody
Understand if it
should have called
continues from
again
this
and-
point on, but.
So, yeah, but somebody should have called again and said they're still doing it, because
Yeah, we don't know.
Oh, okay,
We don't
because
get
what
the-
if someone else buys a house in there? but
Every
does the same
time
thing?
there's a problem, call the police, get it on record.
That's right.
Okay.
Then
That's
we have a legal recourse to go back to them and say, enough is enough.
That's right.
But if
Oh,
one
just
person
withdraw,
calls
take the
and they
permit
don't
away.
get the results they want, and nobody else ever calls again,
Yeah.
the police department, or we think that the problem has
Okay,
been
so the
solved.
more the better. All right,
So
thank you.
every time it happens.
But I have a question. Once one complaint was made, is it not your duty to tell the owners that they could no longer rent until they got this approval?
I needed an approval from them.
Right, so did.
They were not aware of it.
Right.
But they
from the-
continued.
From the time that the first complaint was made.
I don't know what happened afterwards.
No, I know.
They're just telling me, and I never got another complaint,
No,
so
my question is,
I wouldn't,
then you would have said to them, do not rent until you get this permission.
I did
Generally,
not
yes,
say-
that's
that's
part of the
usually what we
conversation,
say,
so
Okay,
we
so
inform folks, we
a
got a
follow-up
complaint,
question?
this is what you can't do, and you need
If
to
by
do.
chance this is approved, when can they start renting?
It's-
it has to be 15 days, they couldn't do it.
If
because
they
it has- it
can,
has to go-
after this
let me-
meeting
let me
tonight.
just- It has to be published in the paper, for 15 days.
Okay,
And then
so tomorrow
if-
they cannot rent?
No.
So this weekend they cannot rent?
Not
The
supposed
rest,
to,
so the
no,
next
no.
15 days, they
15 it has to
cannot
be
rent?
published in the New Haven Register.
You'll have a lot of calls from to
that
the police
it-
department in the next
that
15 days.
It was approved, okay? So it's not approved by law, that's not my law, it's a
Just
state
to be
law.
clear, sir, if it's approved tonight,
Yeah, they can't.
15 days, you have to put it in the newspaper to allow the public.
Exactly.
because You, as the public, then still have a right
To
to go to
sue.
court and sue and appeal. So for 15 days, nothing should take place there.
okay, understood.
And then, after that, they'll wait, I don't know, maybe a week or 10 days further on, because if someone does file a lawsuit, by the time the sheriff picks up the papers, it goes out to the individual, it could be another 10 days. So
So they
15-day
should
minimum.
notify their current
Yeah.
renters that they have to
If
give them.
there's a lawsuit, it can be
Okay.
tied up for years.
Year.
Depends
you
how
for-
fast the court hears things, and then they could not do it.
Thank you for your time.
If it is granted tonight, and you see there's renters there this weekend,
Exactly.
Okay.
Call.
I'm going to,
Call.
this is the last one, I'm not gonna allow any more repeats after, but I'll allow you, normally I allow you to speak once, but I will allow you to come up, because I didn't say that. And then if there's anybody who didn't speak, they can come up. Go ahead, sir.
With respect,
Just
I do
name-
not live, I'm
just-
Willard Parker. I spoke earlier
Yeah,
regarding
you're-
53
Okay.
Dawson,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
With respect, I do not live in the Baldwin area. However, as the board is very aware, on the property in question on Dawson Avenue, there used to be a bar.
Mhm.
The bar was not Cheers. It was not where everybody knows your name. It was not family-oriented. It was a biker hangout. People from other neighborhoods would drive their motorcycles up and down Dawson Avenue, park at the bar, have a great time inside the bar, I assume, and then when the bar closed at about 2 o'clock in the morning, because that was when it did, they would then go up and down Dawson Avenue on their motorcycles, shaking the houses that are there. So I'm very sympathetic to the noise factor of something where outsiders come into a neighborhood who have no vested interest in conforming to any kind of standard, coming in to have a good time. I'm sympathetic to these people. I have no vested interest in approval or disapproval, but I just wanted to let the board know that this is a real issue for those of us who live in this town and pay taxes. Please take us into consideration when you make your decision. That's all I really wanted to say. It's a real issue for those of us who pay taxes here.
And I made a mistake. I thought I knew you spoke, but you spoke on the other application, not this one. So I
That's
apologize
correct.
for that.
That's correct,
All
but
right.
that's why I made reference to the
Okay.
53 Dawson. That's where the bar
Okay,
was.
Right.
Okay? Thank
Okay.
you very
Thank
much.
you. Anyone else wish to oppose this application?
Hi, Michelle Zanitis again at 23 Dawson. I spoke earlier about that other
Yeah,
application.
but it's a different application.
Different application. So I'm just here in solidarity with Baldwin, because if this was happening on Dawson, I would feel completely unsafe. I would probably pick up, sell my house, take my investment properties that I bought since I've been here, and I would move out. We should follow lead in New York City, which outlaws, people don't realize this, Airbnb is not allowed in New York City unless you're living there as well. So I just bad timing that I'm here, but, I hope you really consider this and deny it.
We will vote one way, but this board did not write these regulations. Okay, anyone else wish to oppose this application? Anyone else wish to oppose this application? Third and final call. Anyone else wish to oppose this application? The applicants will have the right to come up and rebut if they wish. We'll let them speak first, and then you can ask questions.
First of all, I'm sorry for all my neighbors. I definitely hear your complaints.
Can you speak up? I can't
Oh,
hear you.
I definitely hear your complaints.
If you, sir, just pull the microphone
Oh.
up a little. Yeah, that's better.
Better?
Be close, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
All right. Yeah,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead.
before we proceed, so we might have a notice issue if the property wasn't posted, so I think we need to get that on the record.
Did you
Understand.
post a sign, and
Yes.
where was it?
Yes.
Right in front of the house, we posted it, so
No, we don't have a picture.
we don't have a picture. We were on vacation,
I
We
don't
have-
know, I guess not, if we haven't been there.
but we did post it. When we did the mailings, we also posted it.
I was there the other day. I must admit, I did not see it. I drove in the driveway.
I didn't see it
Okay.
today,
Okay.
so.
We posted
I
it.
know I didn't see it, because I, we were there.
I was there, I didn't see it.
I did walk in the drive partially, because your house is set back, so normally I drive up and look at everything, but today I got out of the car and walked like 10 feet in, and I was looking at the house, but I did not see a sign either, now that I think of it.
Was it in the
Posted it.
front there? If you
Yes.
walked in your driveway, was it there? I didn't see
You
it.
didn't see
Because
it?
your driveway
was in the
goes in,
front,
and
no.
it gets
It was in
wider
the
as it
front.
goes in.
Window.
I try not to walk all the way up to the house,
No.
because, I don't want somebody to say, well, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah, I just walked,
We did
but
post
but
it.
for the
Exactly.
way the house is,
Yeah.
okay. But
yes, yeah.
we may have an issue with that because we can't hear it with that, but let's let them finish so we can see what they have to say.
Maybe in the
I have one question. Were you advertising 4 bedrooms?
No, it's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
I haven't looked at it.
The house is 3 bedrooms, 2.5.
Well, I know it's 3 bedrooms according to what you submitted here. Okay, you may
Some
continue.
people have it in writing and
That
pictures
it's
that it's
for.
for, so that's what we're trying to get at.
Okay.
Airbnb does not always
Excuse
put
me,
the same
excuse me,
things
time
on.
out. Everybody, we'll do it one at a time. Let them finish, and then you can ask, because we called them up to rebut.
The house is 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths.
Okay.
Okay.
What else would you like to rebut?
Okay, let's see, the renovations did end at the end of July.
Did
There
you
was-
pull permit?
I mean, all permitted.
Yes.
Okay.
All
So
permitted.
everything is documented
We-
by your
we
city.
bought the
That's-
house.
As long as you pull them, that could be checked.
Okay, so
Yes.
everything
Yeah.
was completed by the end of June. There was no bookings, no one stayed at the house in June. We test piloted it in July to see how it would work. and whether or not this was something that we could do to help pay back the renovations. We did $120,000 worth of renovations. Our budget was $60,000. When we got the house, there was safety concerns. We had to redo the furnace. We had to redo the HVAC units. We had to rebuild the stairs. The stairs fell through. There wasn't a subfloor on the second floor. So we had to redo all the flooring for the subfloor. We have 3-year-old twins, right? I'm a licensed counselor. My wife is an assistant principal. We are young, as you could tell. This is a business that we notice is booming all around the world. We thought it was a wonderful home for us to eventually retire on, and we put all our money into this house to make it our dream home. We went above and beyond to make it our dream home. I am so sorry again to all my neighbors that, of course, I think now looking back at it, would have done it totally different. We would have definitely spoken to each and every one of you. So I take full responsibility on that account. But our main priority when we bought the house is like, oh Lord, this is a lot to do, because there were so many things we did not know when we bought the house. So we went over budget. So then I'm like, all right, what can we do to make that money back? So it was a last minute decision. It was 6 months in, and we finished in June. Last minute decision. Then we were celebrating that it was done. That party that got called, the 911 call, that was our uncle. Our uncle and his friends, right? That was, first of all, Father's Day weekend, Juneteenth weekend, our uncle's birthday, our nephew's newborn. We took it and we invited our close family, who are Hispanics and blacks. And yes, they are part of a bike gang. I'm sorry we did not know, or a bike crew. A bike association, but they're all good people. As a matter of fact, they apologized. They called me immediately and were like, Jeff, we did not mean to cause any harm to the neighbors. Hold on a bit. We spoke to the neighbors at that day, and we addressed the situation immediately. There was no confrontation at all.
We have it on the Ring camera.
It was on the Ring camera.
And
This
I
was
spoke to the police
3
officer
p.m.
afterwards.
This was 3
Exactly
p.m.
what she said to the people that were there was all on the Ring camera.
Look,
There was no altercation.
Again, we
Respectfully,
mitigated that
apologize, but
issue as
we don't stand
best
for
as we
that.
possibly can. And my uncle apologized to the neighbors that called. The cops were there and they understood that they weren't doing anything wrong except celebrating that Father's Day weekend.
And then we learned about the parking.
Then we learned about the
where
parking
you
because
can't
the call was actually not for the noise. It was
for the
because
parking,
we had
cars.
guests or motorcycles parked on the
Side close to the wall.
on the side that's closest to our property. Again, like they said, there's fishermen that park there without permits every day. We just noticed that. Again, we're new to the neighborhood.
And we pick up the trash for the fishermen and the glass when we have our 3-year-olds walking on the
So,
rocks as well.
We
So
see
understand.
the fishermen, so we understand the frustration with the fishermen. The glass that they're talking about in front of the wall, I was going there every Friday just to make sure and
We
check
pick up the
everything
glass.
was good. I have never seen glass in front of my property only that came from us. There's glass all over where the fishermen are the fishermen literally put their stuff on our wall sometimes.
Every time
So
we're there.
they can't necessarily say it's coming from our guests. Now, our guests are lawyers, doctors, working professionals. Yes, it's $1,000 to rent, but we don't get the full $1,000. That's with the fees and taxes. We're just making enough to make a living so we can actually buy this house and pay off the renovations and do what we need to do so we can hopefully retire there.
But
You
yes,
know,
we
I-
pass the
again-
fishermen too.
Again, I apologize to everyone. It is my deepest, sincere apology. I did not want it to go down this way. I really wanted to meet my neighbors. We met a few of you guys. I'm sorry if we weren't able to meet everyone. We were definitely planning on having,
Excuse me.
yes,
You need to be addressing us.
Exactly.
not-
Okay,
you're-
sorry.
You're
Okay.
addressing out there.
okay.
And your job right now is to try and rebut what they said, not addressing
Okay.
them. That's something
Okay.
you would do,
With them.
do on your own with your neighbors, but the
Exactly.
process here.
So,
Thank you, John.
John, in the letter, we did state that we wanted to do a gathering for the neighbors. That is there. There was, after that incident, there has not been a party on the street with a complaint. That one incident was not related to a short-term rental, was not related to Airbnb or VRBO. I just wanted to put that on record and make that clear. Once we received the call, we went through the proper process, came here immediately, paid immediately, set up the appointments immediately, and did everything we needed to do to get this permit. We are God-fearing, honest people who want to do it the correct way. If there's anything that our neighbors want us to address, we will try our best to make sure that it gets addressed.
And we have talked to two neighbors. There was one that talked about the landscaping. We had a great conversation about that and our next steps, and we were appreciative. And then this second neighbor that we spoke to, prior to this even being on Airbnb or any of those pieces, you know, about the concern with the motorcycles, and we heard her loud and clear. We spoke about it, talked about it being family that was there that day, and she said since then, she has not had any concerns, and she's the neighbor to the left of us, Carol.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you came in for your application, were you given a list or a copy of the city's zoning regulation in reference to Airbnbs?
Don't
My question is getting to the fact that there's a 7-day minimum.
Yes.
7-day minimum, and yet that paper that we were given tonight has weekends only. Every one of them is either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's not weeks. It's not a week rental.
Okay.
How did that happen that either you weren't aware of it or you just didn't care and didn't follow the rules? I don't know which is the case here.
We weren't aware of it, and now that we are aware, and once you guys give us the stipulations, we will adjust and follow everything that you guys want us to follow.
Because these were booked out
I have a
months
question.
prior to us going.
Go ahead.
My question is, obviously, you got off on the wrong
Yes.
foot with
It's
your relatives.
unfortunate.
How many times have you rented it? And was that the only
So
issues that came up? Was that one of your
That
relatives?
one incident that they were talking to was
It's
not
the
an
only
Airbnb,
issue.
was not an
But that was
Airbnb
the
rental.
only
That was a
time?
That's the
family
only-
gathering, and
that-
that was the only
How many
complaint
times
received.
have you rented it?
So since then, we've only had it on for the month of July and August. Month of July and August.
6 to
has
7
been-
weeks.
Okay. So, okay. So, if-
Everybody had their chance, it's their chance to rebut.
so,
Okay.
it seems,
Go ahead.
if I may, it seems to me you should have had this gathering and this get-together before you even came here with all your neighbors to see if this is something viable. I understand
Agreed.
the regulations are the regulations, but at the end of the day, you kind of still got to live with them.
Yes.
Even though you're not nearby. That's, first of all. The second one, and I mean, I would do this just to protect your investment in what you're trying to get for money. You're trying to get this money back so that you can make a living and then possibly have another and another and another if it works out in your favor. Personally, I mean, did you think of maybe having you rent it out and getting a security detail to just sit there and say, hey, listen, you know what? From the weekend, or for whatever that week is, you're gonna have to absorb some of that money, whether it's $500 a week, whether it's $1,000 a week, whatever it is. If you pass it on to the consumer, you do, but then that person sits there and they monitor that, so that there is no monkey business, there is no partying. No, we don't do that. There's gonna be security here. We're gonna have whatever conditions are gonna be set forward, but for you, you can say, we can hire a security company to come here. They're gonna sit in front of the house and monitor and patrol whatever, and if anybody gets out of hand, they're gonna get thrown out before the neighbors get upset, before the neighbors can't sleep, before, they gotta get up early in the morning, because not everybody's on vacation. The neighbor next door may have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go work, because he may still be paying for that house.
Yeah.
So, I would honestly consider getting a security detail there. With what Mr. John was saying also, if the house is being rented for 2 days and 3 days, are the other days empty and just nobody's there the week, or are you double dipping and going 3 days for somebody, 2 days for somebody, and in 1 week you got 3 or 4 different families? See, I don't agree with that. But if it's gonna be a whole week and it's 7 days, then you're gonna have to say, okay, we're gonna have to provide security, because we now don't trust this process based on what's happened before. Not just only with you, but Ocean Avenue or anyone else that's doing RMBs and having problems. This may be a way to go, to appease everyone, because I'm sure if everyone knew that they weren't going to have a weekly problem, you're gonna always have a problem here and there. But if you don't have a weekly problem every single week, they have to call the cops, they may be more like, oh, okay, this is not so bad. But if they don't know, because now you've kind of betrayed a little bit of that trust by saying, I don't know, I believe you knew. You just, kind of like went with it as long as you didn't get caught.
We didn't know, and I think the most important part is back to Catherine's point, that there was only one complaint, and that was when we had a family party,
Sure.
and that was not associated with Airbnb
Okay.
or Turbo.
Fair enough.
So,
We still have, the other thing we have to decide here is this sign issue, because if there was no sign up, and I say I didn't see it, this hearing would be told, is going to be illegal one way or the other.
How many more people live on that street? I think they're all here.
No, it's not the street.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just saying, I mean, I saw the 20, number 8, number 7, I mean, it's like bingo.
Sammy, I'm not saying that they didn't know or what.
Yeah.
But if we go to court
Mhm.
and there wasn't a sign up, it may not be denied or whatever, the judge is gonna throw it out and say there was no sign. It's happened before.
So, Mr. Chairman, so that is the problem, right? That, at this point, we don't have proof that the sign was put up, and all the testimony on the record, except for their testimony, is that no sign was seen, and the board didn't see one when they went out to inspect it, so.
I was honestly there today, and I walked 10 feet into the driveway, so just because you can't see the house,
So,
and I didn't see a sign.
so it
But I
is-
wasn't looking for it, but I looked straight ahead, and now that I think of it, there was no sign that I saw, it was on the front of the house.
So it is very possible that on appeal, it would get overturned, and the judge would tell us that we would need to
We'd
hear
have
it
to
again.
hear it again, so.
Okay.
But the same
So-
thing happened with the mailing, with respect, that many people here said they didn't get the mailing,
Yes,
and
we
we
have a
have,
receipt from the post office.
Correct.
We don't have a receipt on that. We have a receipt on, which is the proper thing to do. You go to the post office and you get a receipt. Now, if the post office said it was sent on the 6th, it should have been there 10 days. But why some people didn't get it, that's the US Post Office, but you have a receipt. But there is no way, as they say, I did not see a sign, and I didn't see anybody that went there, saw a sign.
I have a picture of the front of the house when I was there. I don't see a sign. In
Okay,
fact,
so
maybe
you have a
could-
picture.
Whereabouts did you put the sign?
Yeah.
we put it in the front where the windows are, there's like 3 windows there, we put it on the day of the same day of the mailing,
Is that it?
and then we were on vacation.
Yeah, but it has to
But
be
was
up.
it rented during that time?
Yes,
Maybe the
probably.
people that rented it took it down.
I don't
We
know.
did put it up.
It
Yeah.
has to be, but
But you don't have, here's the problem.
We don't
Everybody
have
has a
that.
phone
Yeah, we
nowadays.
don't
It's
have-
very simple to take a picture
Right.
of
Yes.
something and say, here, we've got proof that we did it. Unfortunately, you don't have a photo on your phone. You don't have any other kind of proof that you can offer to us. So I would say, okay, and that's the way I plan to vote on this, is I'm going to say that this hearing needs to be redone after everything is done properly. And it hasn't been, so I don't know that we can, actually act on anything tonight other than saying the sign wasn't posted properly, therefore we can't do anything on it, and you're gonna have to refile and get another sign, put it out, have proof of it.
and also if that happens, you can't rent it until
between.
it's done properly, because, again, if we vote on it, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there has been enough people speaking against it, if it goes to court, that's the first thing, because it's happened before, years ago when I first got on. I wasn't the chairman, someone didn't check, there was no sign, and it got thrown out of court, told to come back. You know, they had to redo it again. So, yes?
I mean, I'll ask, I don't know if you guys know, maybe Kathy knows. Have we been getting any complaints on Ocean Ave? Are there any complaints?
No, I know. They
That was a
would go-
very,
they-
that was a very similar case where a young couple came before us and they asked for the Airbnb by all sorts of attorneys where they lived, and they were all against it. And your commission, you guys did a great job by conditioning the property on what was expected and what was heard from the people. I have not had one complaint from them.
But it wasn't rented prior to them coming in.
Right. Yes, it was.
This-
That's how I found out.
Oh, they came in, we haven't had a
But again,
complaint.
it's a moot point simply because of the fact that the sign wasn't.
No,
there.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
just asking.
The only reason I'm asking is because those particular owners are probably saying, hey, listen, I don't want to lose a good gig. So to all their renters, they're probably being very strict, and I'm kind of
doubting
convinced that they'll do the same. You know, if they have somebody 10 minutes away,
Okay.
fine. If they have,
Let's let them, if they have anything else to say.
Okay.
And then we can make a decision on the sign there, which I don't think we can go on with this, but we'll let the board decide.
you guys don't have anything on your phone with a sign, anything
We
from?
can
that's-
look.
We could rehear this
We can talk to our
application
property
Yeah.
on the
manager.
21st of September.
Does your property manager have a picture of it?
That's what we can ask. We can ask.
Start texting.
We won't.
But it's okay. I think I'm in agreement with Brent if we
Okay.
have to
Yes,
read.
okay.
But the property wouldn't be able to be rented
That's correct.
between now and the next meeting, and then subsequently afterwards.
Yeah, if you rent that property, it's gonna look really
Yeah.
bad for you.
The neighbors will call, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
understand.
So if you've got rentals coming in, you better
Mm-hmm.
get on the
Totally
phone.
understand.
And this is
You know-
your chance to get on a better footing.
That's right, have that party.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think the staff recommendation at this point is we can do one of two things. We can, correct, continue the meeting, have them appropriately do the mailings, repost the property and properly notice the hearing, and we would have to have the public hearing all over again.
How about instead of continuing it, can we simply say they need to refile and waive the fee because of the fact that the sign wasn't properly put up? I don't know whether we can or we can't, I'm asking.
I don't think we have authority to waive a fee, but I think
No,
we
the
could.
only one that has-
All right, I just
I
checked.
think we could.
I know.
Because I want to make sure the
Renotice.
neighbors know
That has to be done through.
that it's going to be coming up again,
The only
so
one-
everybody gets an opportunity.
Right, the only one that could waive fees is the city council.
Okay, all
So,
right,
But I
then we'll
do
continue.
believe that they can renotice this application, and we
Yes.
have
Yeah.
the entire hearing all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
For the next
Okay.
upcoming.
And that would be the
Either
September
way,
21st meeting here. It's a Wednesday in the Harriet North Room.
If they decide to
15.
sue and we heard it this way, because it all is gonna get thrown out on a technicality. And unfortunately, if we
On
make-
on appeal, yes,
on
you have
appeal
the
either
potential.
way, whether the neighbors appeal or they appeal, it's gonna get thrown out and we'll have to start again because we didn't follow the rules. Oh.
There's Lee Tiernan.
Oh,
They could also ask for a continuance, so that would be voluntary, so that they wouldn't sue us.
okay. Would you like to ask for continuance? Would you have?
Can you give us a letter to ask
He is,
to
that's the
continue the
corporation
application?
counsel for the city of West Haven.
Yes.
Okay.
And we'd like a letter to ask for that, so we could put it in our file that you asked to do a continuation.
Well, they can verbally ask for it here, it's on the record, and we can
Correct,
grant
but
it.
Yeah.
I'd like it
Okay,
in
would you
writing.
like to
No,
ask
they
for-
can,
Yes.
yes, but I'm saying, tonight we can verbally
Yeah.
get it, and then they can follow
I
up with a
would
letter for the
suggest
file.
if you ask for the continuance, you go in and meet with Mr. Soto, Ms. Coniff, and just straighten out everything you're supposed to do.
Okay, all right.
And I'm not guarantee it's gonna pass or not, but we've gotta follow the rules and the rule of law.
Okay.
And that's the only thing I can recommend is with you. Would you like, I can ask for would you like to ask for continuance? Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, so I think, just appropriately for the record, what we're saying is that they would ask for the continuance.
You just
We
did.
they would still be responsible for re-notifying the hearing.
Right.
Correct.
And at the next meeting, we would hold the hearing.
And the sign would
Again.
have to go up too.
Yes, so yes, they would do proper
And-
notifications, proper posting, and the board would hold the hearing again. So they would
Okay.
present again.
And let's understand, too, that we're looking at a short window. If we're coming back on the 21st, 10 days, which means the letters have to go back out before the 11th, so
Yeah,
we get everybody.
We hand them out and tell them when they have to
All
go
right,
out.
okay. Just wanna-
Have a motion to continue this
So moved.
application to the next month.
Second.
Brett, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is continued to next month. Thank you. Next application.
Want to take a 2-minute bath?
Can we take a 2-minute break?
All right, make a motion, have a 2-minute break.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, go.
I have to go.
Okay. You have your thing there, right?
Commissioner, you all set?
I'm all set. We got everybody?
Back in session?
Back in session?
Everybody ready? Did you turn it on?
Thank you for asking.
Okay. Okay. Next application tonight, 6 Rock Street, an application seeking several variances. Variance number 1, lot coverage maximum to permit 70.2% where 55% is allowed. Number 2, open space minimum to permit 38.6% where 45% is allowed. Side yard variance to permit 18.5 feet where feet to a grain silo where 20, I don't know what a grain silo is, 25 feet is required.
Let me find out.
Oh, okay.
That's where they're making the beer.
Okay, I'm gonna find out. Signage to permit 606 square feet of signage where 333 square feet is allowed, and to permit a second sign of 303 square feet where 166.5 square feet is allowed. To permit a total sign area of 909 square feet where a total of 499.5 square feet is allowed. Under section 20.1, section 69.3 of the City of West Haven zoning regulations. Owner is the City of West Haven. Applicant is Rock Street Brewery LLC, file number 18-22.
Commissioner, can I just speak up that, all that you read, Ed, the sign
The sign,
variances?
I was just gonna mention that, and I would.
I heard that, but I can only read what it says.
Well, you did a great job on that.
When the gentleman who's ever representing Rock Street come up, and I realize you have submitted a letter where you don't need the variance for the sign, so I will let you tell us that, and then we won't, so everybody realizes they do not need, they reconfigured the sign, or something, they do not need a variance for the sign, if I'm correct, with the letter came in.
Correct.
Okay, just identify yourself
Just
for
pull
the
that
record,
up a
sir.
little bit, the mic.
Which one actually is it?
Oh, geez.
I'll speak loud enough you can hear me.
Okay.
My name's Douglas Gray. I'm managing member of Rock Street Brewery LLC. My address is 340 Turtleback Road, New Canaan, Connecticut. And we are here to ask for variances on 3 issues. One, it was listed as pointed out, the signage, which it turns out we're fine on. We don't need a variance for the signage area. And that was worked out with Mr. Soto on that. So we are, for all of your edification, I'm sure you've seen plenty of the stuff going on. We're taking the site at 6 Rock Street and want to come in and build a brewery, tasting room, event space for New England Brewing Company on this site. And so we are, due to hardship, we're asking for variances on 3 items, 2 of which are sort of interrelated, one being open space and the other being coverage on that. And the third one is our side yard setback, that when we have our silos over on the rock side of that, we fall within a setback to fit that over there. So we're asking for variances on those 3 issues on that to allow us to come in.
Just go, the side yard setback is the 18.5 feet?
Correct.
Correct, okay, that's on the, where the silos are on the.
Yeah, that's right over on.
Okay, right.
Right there.
Just west of, or just east of the rock there.
Correct.
Right, okay. And the open space, you're asking for 38.6, its minimum is 45, but right now existing is 40.7, so that's like 2.1% more than exists if I did my math correctly.
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
in the lot coverage, 55 allowed, presently it's 66.1, and you'll be at 70, so it's just about 4% here. more.
Yes,
So it'd be-
70.2.
Okay,
Yeah, and we have taken we worked with staff on this quite a long time, taking every move that we can to try and minimize the impact of this, and we think we have, actually, and we've come up with what I think is a very attractive building that would be quite an asset for the city of West Haven, and just with these variances, that will allow us to then move ahead and hopefully get the project open by next summer.
Just so you're going to be, just so everybody knows, there is a right-of-way there, and that has to go before the city council, so we are not doing anything with that, so everybody realizes they want to move the right-of-way onto the open space. But that will not come, that does not come before this board. This board is only concerned with the side yard, lot coverage, and open space. We also we are not in charge of parking. Parking will be arranged, it has to go with the city council and then back to the zoning board. This board has no say in the parking, no say in the right-of-way. I know there's a land trust, and they'll have to, that will be dealt with, but it's not dealt with this board. We're only dealing with three things. Side yard variance for one side, the other side doesn't need one. The coverage and the open space. So now, the right-of-way.
On the left or the right there?
Just look.
Is behind the building.
If you know where the conference center is now,
Yeah.
it's behind the building, it's on the south side. The
Gotcha.
north side
The walkway.
is
Oh, the
Captain.
walk, okay, okay, gotcha.
North side is Captain Thomas
Okay.
Boulevard,
Yeah.
so that they're suggesting that the sidewalk, the right-of-way be moved back. Again, this board has no say in that, so I just want to make that clear to everybody here, what we cannot do anything with that. We're only here for the side yard, the lot coverage, and the open space, okay?
So this should be quick.
Oh, well, nothing is.
Well, I mean, if that's all we gotta worry about, then.
Well, I just want to make, because I realize there may be questions on parking.
Oh.
This board does not address the parking.
Yeah.
That's addressed in the regulations, I think it's 168-2. I can't remember the exact, but it's in there. I went and found it. I didn't even know it was there, but it is there. You may continue, sir. If you have anything else to add.
Actually, no. I think we've
Okay.
covered everything. We're here to really answer a lot of questions that you
Okay.
might have, because
Okay, Mr. Soto, any questions for this gentleman?
I think, did they state, I'm sorry, I stepped in a little late, but did they state their hardship for the record? No. For you folks?
No.
No hardship yet.
Okay, since, did you state your hardship?
our hardship is
Is
due to the
sideways.
configuration of the lot and the rock, and basically the development, trying to fit this development on this site.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Soto? Mrs. Coniff?
No,
Okay.
Mailings and everything were
Thank you.
done.
yes, we did.
Okay. Mr. Rivera, any questions?
No,
I'm gonna
thank
go
you.
around once, and so we can, Ms. Soto?
Well, I don't know if this has anything to do with us, but are you just serving beer?
No,
No
they are
wine?
they are going to, I'll try and answer, and then if I don't answer, they.
Yeah, we
Okay.
have
I'll let
operations
him
from
explain it rather than me,
Nebco.
but I know they're making beer, they have a tap room, and they also have a room where you could have 80 people, I guess, rented out or whatever. And you, just identify yourself for the record, sir.
My name is Marty Giuliano. I'm with New England Brewing Company, and I live at 35 Wilbar Avenue in Milford, Connecticut. A couple of things. The reason that we're here is this is a new and unique usage for West Haven. West Haven currently doesn't have any breweries, distilleries, or wineries in it. So this is a very different use coming into the city, and going through the process of doing everything the right way to be able to accommodate is key. One of the setback requests on the side for the silos is, for those that don't know, silos is where the grain that comes in to make the beer goes. Those are specifically in line with the brew house, which is why they're on that side of the building. The grain would outload from the silo through the wall, and it would go direct into a mill and then directly into the brew house to make the beer. We didn't know that those were considered permanent structures, but being bolted to the ground, it makes sense why you would consider them that. So hence the request because of the square footage they take on the side of the building where they placed in that setback space. You know, unfortunately, we looked at many different ways of configuring this building, and our biggest hardship is that Savin Rock itself. I don't know if anybody's been in the building, but the bottom floor of that building is sloped because it's part of the rock. And so for us to be able to move the building and to be able to take all that rock out, and with inland wetlands and doing stuff like that and being so close to floodplains, it didn't make sense to do that. So the building slid a little bit towards the parking lot
So that would.
and spread
Part
out.
of your hardship is a rock.
Which is, yeah, so the rock is hard.
No punt, right?
Wait a minute, could you, one question, go back. Tell me why you can't remove the rock again?
Well, disturbing the space itself with inland wetlands and being so close to the water and with DEEP and floodplains and stuff, it's probably pretty good to have that in there as a shore up for that waterfront space.
How will your foundation, will it be laid up against that?
I'm gonna lay that to
Our
Doug.
foundation is actually Savin Rock, almost the entire site is rock, fairly
Right.
shallow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our foundation is just right on top of rock.
And I would also say.
No blasting then, right?
No.
Okay.
I'd venture to say if you tried to touch that rock, you may affect Savin Rock. And I think that would not be a good idea.
Well, that's what we thought,
So I
too.
would think,
Yeah.
anyone that would try to do that, would be met with.
A little
quite
too
resistance.
iconic to be
Yeah.
messing
So I think that would be a no-go.
Yeah.
Okay, you may continue.
You may continue.
So, you know, and so in considering the layout of the building and spreading it out to the dimensions it is defined by the space itself and the hardship of the rock and all of that, and then the height requirements all come into play. You know, we've talked about, well, people can say, well, you can move the silos, and you could, but one of the problems that if you were to move the silos and put them on the front of the building, aesthetically, I don't think people in town would be very favorable of that. Nor would we, because aesthetically you want an appealing look when you approach the building. The biggest concern of doing that is the distance that you would have to move the grain from the silo. And it goes through augers, and as it goes through augers, it breaks down and turns more into dust the farther it gets. And then you end up a problem with quality brewing, and it degrades the grain by the time it gets to the brew kettle. So, you know, we've been very thoughtful about the layout of this. From a functionality standpoint, we're keeping things back of house, not visible and open to the public, and keeping them shaded, for another word, so to speak, where there'll be fencing and back of house stuff, like any restaurant. You know, when you walk in, and or if you were to go to Jimmy's next door, you don't walk around the side of his restaurant where his back of house is, because it's not appealing. It's where all your dumpsters and stuff like that are, and so that we tried to keep all of that into one space to minimize any issues.
Do you have a picture of the front of the building there? I mean, I know I have one here, just so anybody that wants to see what it looks like.
I have another question too.
Let's see that, and then I'll let you ask the question.
So this is the street, the view from the street when you
Captain Thomas
approach.
Boulevard?
Captain Thomas Boulevard. And this would be the view from the gazebo, so to speak, in the open space.
Turn it a little bit, just so that people on the camera can see it, just in case somebody's looking.
Can you point out the silos?
Different drawing.
As it happens, the silos aren't visible in either of the views because they're in the.
Well, I know where they are on that. I was just wondering, you don't have a picture of them in the rendition? With the front or back view? I'm just curious. And your silos are what, 35 feet tall, I believe?
32.
32 feet tall. How, and again,
28?
I'm sure this is all going to be addressed.
22.
22 feet.
What's the highest point on the building?
So this is the elevation of the building. If you were standing at Savin Rock,
Mhm.
looking at it, so you see there's 3 silos. The highest point of the building above the ground is about 46 feet to the top of the clerestory windows. The eave line on that side is not dimensioned. It's at about 20 feet off the ground, so that they project.
you've taken into consideration these silos for weather, because we do get hurricanes, we get high tides, we do get, so you guys have taken all that stuff into consideration,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
It says that you can have parties of up to 80 people, but how many people, does that include the deck? And how many people could be on that deck?
So in the space itself, I'll start with walking in. When you walk in, you would walk in through this building, through this lane. That would be the Savin Rock Museum.
No windows?
Not on this side. There's offices up above, and the museum display cases will run at 1,700 square feet of museum space that you would walk through to enter. Then you would come up on towards the water side of the building, and this space is the tap room space. This is the event space. It's part of the tap room, but it's sectioned off as a separate room, where if you wanted to have a birthday party for 75 people, you can do that. And it's separate from the tap room space and the deck. It opens up to the deck space, so they'd also have access to outdoor space as well
But you could
as.
have 80 inside and more people on the deck.
Yes. Yes, I think total capacity was I don't have the number on hand, but I think it was 414, 411. Yeah. Total space.
Yes. Your tap room is only a quarter of the building. The rest of the quarter size. The rest of the building is for production of beer.
Correct.
Now, you're gonna sell all that beer in that tap room?
No.
You're gonna manufacture it
Yes.
and ship it out?
So we currently produce about 20,000 barrels of beer, and about 4.5% to 5% goes through our tap room, and that's in beer sales to go and the tasting room itself.
So your main focus is gonna be manufacturing beer?
Yes.
You don't care about the tap room?
It's there.
It's just a bonus.
It is. It's a bonus, and it's a popular thing today. People like going out and trying different beers, and
It's a good
so.
advertisement for his beer, too, because you can go in and
It's-
taste them if you haven't had them. Just so we.
But where does it say on the beach that we could have a manufacturer?
It's been, there's.
It's a
not-
manufacturer.
I only know this, and I only found out the zoning board back, and I believe it was February, changed it to light manufacturing there.
No.
And-
I'm sorry,
No, that's-
Mr. Chairman, no.
No, that's what I was told.
No.
Yeah,
no.
but
Excuse.
it's also,
Can I
it's
explain?
Let Mr.
shoreline commercial retail, OS. That's,
Let Mr. Soto explain it then, because I know it was changed, but I'm not sure how.
So, what the planning commission did, the planning and zoning commission did is, they adopted the ability to have farm wineries, distilleries, and breweries throughout various different zones. So they did not change the zone of the parcel. they allowed, so it's not allowed, it's not just here, but breweries are allowed in all commercial zones, because we understand that breweries come in different scales and sizes, so you may see them here, you may see them on the Boston Post Road.
Is this
So-
an overlay then?
It's not an overlay, we added a new use, and then it was allowed through all the commercial zones in
But the
town.
open space wasn't changed. That's not changed. That has an exit.
Not, it's so not technically, but the open space did not go, the open space crossed the building at one portion. What was changed was that the open space was moved off the developed portion along the path. So there seemed to have been a mistake when the initial open space was drawn, and it crossed a portion of the existing conference center, and it clipped a portion of Jimmy's Restaurant as well. That open space, that zone was shifted to follow the actual open space. So that's the change that happened to that.
Well, what I'm seeing here is a manufacturer being built on the beach. That's what I see.
So I don't think the planning kind of profession considers breweries the same as it would a manufacturer of tires.
I mean, if he was building a tap room,
That-
he would have enough room.
It's got
Yes,
400 people going in.
so that's
Yeah.
why,
That's enough. I mean, what, 1,000?
He would have enough room, but he's building a production to manufacture liquor. That should be done in a commercial zone, not in the beach.
it is a commercial zone.
That zone is S.
Shoreline
No, no,
commercial
it-
retail,
Shoreline commercial retail.
retail.
But I'll also,
And the zoning board is allowed.
so
But
the
that's
planning,
not
so-
retail.
so that's where the
They
planning
rewrote it.
commission,
The planning and
Well,
zoning.
technically
we
it
didn't
is, because
do it.
somebody can
Rewrote
go
it.
there and buy a case of beer or buy whatever they want.
What he's-
But that's already
excuse me,
decided,
just
right?
listen
It's
a
already
minute, excuse
decided.
me. We did not change it. It was shoreline commercial retail. But the planning and zoning designated certain commercial areas for light manufacturing. And
Okay,
they-
Mr. Chairman, no.
That's not right? No?
the specific use of brewing beer
Yeah,
has been allowed
okay.
in all the commercial zones.
All the commercial zones? Okay.
The distillery of liquors has been allowed in certain zones, and then farm wineries have been allowed in a variety of other zones. What the Planning and Zoning Commission did was to say that this is a use allowable by special permit. That special permit use, what the board member here is bringing up, is being considered before the Planning and Zoning Commission, where it should rightfully be considered.
Yeah,
So
not
you-
by us.
Correct.
We're only concerned.
There's 3
with the
variances that
three
you're looking at
variances
now.
only.
Do you have a lease
We,
with the city?
we are,
I'm sure it's
They're
contingent.
negotiating.
we're
You
negotiating
don't have
one,
one yet.
and it will be,
Simple question.
yes.
Okay, so you're,
We-
do you have a
we met today
memorandum of
to-
understanding?
We met today to work on that.
Do you have a memorandum of understanding?
There is an MOU on the property.
special.
with
Okay,
Doug.
I'm just want to make sure that
Yes.
if we grant you these variances and everything else, that there is some, I mean, right now,
Yes.
you don't have any skin in the game other than what your soft costs are.
That's the zoning.
I just want to make sure that
We
if we
have
go
substantial
through.
skin.
He's got a lot of skills.
I understand, I do
To get to
projects
that
too, I get it.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
We got too many people talking, okay? We're only one. Right now, Mr. Kosh was asking a question, but we can't have everybody talking here.
All right, so it's your intent that if you're granted these things and everything else, to finish negotiating with the city and sign a long-term lease. That's what I'm trying to do.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I
And
want.
the
Also,
concept-
if they pass us, then they go back to the
To
city
P&Z.
council next Monday,
Yep.
and then the zoning board on Tuesday, but they need our approval first. And we are only concerned, our only concern is with the variances. We could stand here all day and talk about the other things, but we have no
Yeah, let's
control
not.
over those. Okay, anything, I'll continue, sir, anything you wanted to add?
I think that's it. If anybody had other questions, more than
No,
happy to.
Anybody have any other questions concerning the brewery? Okay, I think was our job is their manufacturing. He said they manufacture beer. Beer doesn't appear overnight either. I probably takes a
Wish.
week or two to, for the the tanks to ferment and everything?
Yes, it moves from the brew house, it'll move to a fermentation cellar.
Right.
Then it goes to bright tanks, to packaging, to the cooler, and out the loading dock door.
And the average time of that? 2 or 3
16
weeks?
days
16
uh,
days?
for an IPA. Lagers are about 5 weeks
Yeah, so
for a
you
lager.
you'll be producing, but they won't be going out every day, or they won't be getting, it's,
Actually, the number of trucks you expect.
Yeah, it was, I think it was 1.3 a day is what it came out to for trucks.
most of
Both.
them are, from
Either
what I
way, yeah.
understand, are the small beer.
Most of them are the beer trucks you see
With
delivering
roll-up
to like
doors.
Jimmy's to delivers beer. They pull up and we load them, and then they take it back to their warehouse.
Like you see a truck in front of a package store delivering beer, to those small trucks.
I'm assuming all mailings were done.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Were there any comments from police or fire?
Well, you have what's in front of you, but it was directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay. Anybody, anything else, sir? Okay, thank you. I'll ask 3 times, anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this application? Here. You can sit there if you want to speak, you got a microphone there, okay?
Nancy Rossi, Mayor, City of West Haven, business address 355 Main Street, West Haven. I am definitely in favor of this, and I don't only want to say only me, but there are many, many people who have come to different meetings and have expressed the interest and the excitement about having a business like this on our shorefront. It will be, a new day for West Haven down there. I know that over the years, I've had many people come before me when I was on the city council, and even since mayor, going, why don't we do anything on our shorefront? Why don't we have something on our shorefront? Why can't you get something to drink or eat on our shorefront? Well, now we can make an addition to it, because obviously there are other businesses right on the shorefront, Jimmy's being one of them. But as we all are aware, the Savin Rock Conference Center is in disrepair, and has been for quite some time. Actually, since I took office, we could only use it a few times because the maintenance wasn't upkept and done correctly, and the building has deteriorated. So now it's an eyesore there on top of it. This would give it a beautiful new look. It's right there. It will bring people not only from West Haven, but from all over. And I would argue that it would help the restaurants that are near there or even a little bit further out, because I'm learning a lot about a brewery. I don't even drink beer, but I'm learning a lot about the brewery. And again, that a lot of people go there for drinks, and then they go someplace else to eat. We have many restaurants right near there. As I said, Jimmy's is right next door, Apps is down the street, Turk's is across the street. And there's, all different restaurants, be it Jetties, I mean, I could go on and on, that would benefit from this, along with the residents and outside of West Haven. I know, again, people are very, very excited about it. They have come to different meetings. I am very hopeful that these 3 variances will be approved this evening so that we can move forward to the city council meeting on Monday night, which will first have a public hearing and then different approvals that night during the course of the meeting. So thank you very much, and I hope again that we can get these 3 variances done tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Look.
Thank you. And thank you for your service, by the way. I don't know if people realize that you don't get paid for what you do. So,
Paul,
thank
just
you.
identify yourself, please, for the record.
Paul Caplo, 57 Dawson
Thank you.
Avenue. I've been a resident 43 years of West Haven, 37 years in the Dawson Avenue area. When I first came here, I was absolutely in favor of saving the shore. As a realtor, I realized that there was a catch-22. But when I saw the plans and I listened to the testimony of Mr. Fitzpatrick, the owner of Crestlink and Mercury, speak about his neighbor, the New England Brewing Company, and the accolades that bestowed, I think we would be remiss if we don't take the opportunity to welcome them into the community. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone opposed to this application? Anyone opposed to this?
Good evening, Ron Walters, 5 Fenwick Street. The variances that are being requested, if they are denied, it wouldn't prevent them from actually conducting their operation on site. What they're requesting is that they want to do it with the size of their building that they want and situate it where it's,
You're right. If they wanted to scale it back a little, they wouldn't need any variances.
that,
But if, they have a right to request it.
that is correct. So the hardship for these variances are self-inflicted on the size of their building and the location of their building. I have quick concerns regarding the lot coverage. The lot coverage, they're requesting 70.2%. The open space minimum, they're requesting 38.6%. That seems to me to add up to 108%. So I think there is a concern over what they're looking for between lot coverage and open space. The side yard variance, if they reduce the width of the building by 8 feet, they wouldn't need to have that variance. This building is going to be extending the variance beyond what is allowed by zoning regulations. In most areas, wouldn't be a problem. If it's a side yard next to another house or a building next to another building in an industrial park isn't a problem. The problem is that this building is directly next to the most iconic landmark in the city, Savin Rock. So they are actually encroaching on Savin Rock. So I think that is a big concern, and I think that is a total disregard to the residents of West Haven who walk down there, use that area for the scenic beauty of the shoreline. I think this building is out of touch with what is there. I don't understand why the signage issue all of a sudden went away when they're asking for 900 square feet of signage. I also question how come they're not requesting a variance for the building height. It's my understanding that in the SCR zone, the building height is restricted to 35 feet. If you look on the site plans, their building height is 45 feet. Now, I'm not sure whether that 45 feet is from ground level or from the level of after they put in 3 feet of fill to move the building above floodplain. So I think there is questions that need to be answered regarding that issue. I don't think the applicant produced enough evidence for their hardship. If the building was moved to a different part of the property, I think they would get away from those hardships. I think the zoning regulations are a guide for development within the city. I think when you have multiple instances for variances, I think the development becomes problematic. You're trying to fit something into this site that really shouldn't be there. There's no reason why they can't build a brewery there and have a tap room without having the variances and without having the size of the building that they're asking for. Thank you.
Yes.
Are you reading a letter from Kevin Crusaden? Is that what you have?
No.
No? Okay. So, it just seemed like it was the same. Is that what you got, Jeff, or?
This is my own words.
No, I've got.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Well, no, I'm asking because we've got
Yeah,
a
I know
letter
there's a letter
that's
that
making
has to be read. Go ahead.
those points. So I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't speaking off that letter, and then we didn't have to read it into the record.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jeffrey Gordon with Codas Bodie and Associates. I'm representing Jimmy's of Savin Rock this evening. And the reason why the gentleman before me covered a lot of the points that Mr. Crusaden will see in his letter is because these are the points that go to the variance that's being requested. It's really a simple matter here. Mr. Soto himself said earlier, when they wrote the regulation, they said that breweries come in various sizes and shapes and could go in various places of town. So that comes back to the answer of why this place, why this size? Obviously, it could be a smaller size, and it could comply with your regulations. Ostensibly, it is putting 16 ounces of beer in a 12-ounce glass is what it would come down to. We were told that the silos are not aesthetic, so we can't relocate them to the front of the building, yet you're putting them right next to the iconic Savin Rock, along with your loading area and your dumpster. So it's obviously not that iconic if you're going to put your back-end stuff next to the landmark location. Also, the Long Island Sound is not an inland wetlands. It is a tidal wetlands. It is part of the Office of the Long Island Sound Program. It's a different aspect completely. The rock is not, the Savin Rock itself is not on the property. Obviously, a rock keeps on going down below. It's like an iceberg. You don't see where it ends, but it goes down there. And they might have to chip some rock away. There was times when the rock would get chipped for certain features along the amusement park in times past. But the thing that's also kind of interesting is part of this proposal, and this goes to the coverage, is being built in the open space zone. The original zone line for the SCR and open space bifurcated the old Savin Rock Center, as was mentioned, and it was realigned to follow the line of the boardwalk. They're going completely across the boardwalk. They're going across an easement to the residents of the city of West Haven for a pedestrian access, and they're going across that easement into the grass area near the gazebo, which is an open space easement for each and every resident of the city of West Haven. So frankly, I don't know that the Common Council has the right to reassign that easement. An easement that's deeded to every resident's benefit probably would require a citywide referendum at least to change it. Going to parking, Mr. Chairman, you made a comment that that's handled by zoning. I can guarantee you, one way, shape, or another, it is going to come back to this commission. And the reason for that is there's two court cases, Langer versus the Planning and Zoning Commission of Westport, and the other well-known McKenzie versus the Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Monroe, which says that the zoning commission does not have the right to vary the regulations. That lies exclusively with the Zoning Board of Appeals. The court cases also said that the zoning commission cannot write a regulation for their regulations to give them authority that belongs to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So they might have empowered themselves to say we can vary our parking regulations, but the courts have already said, no, you can't give yourself authority that the state statute, the general statute 8.2 and 8.6 say exclusively to this commission. So you might want to punt it now, and the zoning commission might think they can do it, but it will come back to this commission. There's no getting around that. So the parking, we're going to find, is grossly undercounted, according even to the zoning regulations and figuring out parking spaces. It goes to seating and open space capacity. And based on the plans that have been submitted, they got an outside deck of 6,468 square feet, a tap room of 5,082 square feet, an event space of 1,578 square feet. So I don't think it's just a accoutrement to a production facility. It's a big facility. Mr. Giuliano, when he presented to the council, commented on the Stony Creek Brewery has 350,000 visitors a year. Their goal is to get 500,000 visitors a year. And that comes out to about 1,350 people a day. So the size of that tap room, event space, outside deck and bar would, based on the fire safety code, if they all had tables, 875 people. If they all were stand-up, 2,625 people. So the reality is going to be somewhere in between, and if you take a look at the floor plan and see how many toilets are there, you know what the architect based his requirements on. So it's going to be a lot of people. Now, the parking regulations tell you one space per 4 people. Well, if I'm figuring average of 1,200 people, they're going to need 300 parking spaces, and they got maybe a third of that. And part of that is because the coverage is so large. They've pushed out into the parking lot, and they've pushed out across the boardwalk, and then they want you to vary your regulation to allow you to do that. It is too big for this site. If they went to the modest size tap room, if the production facility was elsewhere, this would be a greatly compatible use for the other restaurants on Captain Thomas Boulevard. It would be a draw. It would be very successful. I was the designer of Brewport in Bridgeport. I was involved with the design of the Dockside Brewery in Milford early on, and those are very, very successful, and they require a lot of parking. Brian Beer, one of the people with Dockside, said they have over 105 parking spaces for a tap facility half the size of this, and he says we could use twice as many parking spaces. And Brewport does quite all right down there in Bridgeport. But I go back to the application, when they say that they've done everything they could conceivably do to make this thing, we've tried to meet every possible code and ordinance to bring this unproductive property back into the tax rolls and build an asset for the city and its citizens. It's a nice marketing strategy, but it's not a hardship. You can't manufacture a hardship when you have the ability to take a very suitable piece of property and put a properly scaled development on it that would meet your regulations. I was looking at some of the things of this, and I couldn't make the math work until I realized that they're planning on raising the site almost 5 feet. The elevation of the cul-de-sac entering the site is elevation 11. Their finished floor entrance, which is not that far from that, is going to be elevation 16. And the very top of the clear story height of the building is going to be elevation 62. This is going to be a looming facility, a pre-engineered building on the beach, almost like a little BJ's on the beach. It's going to be a big, big building, and I just hope that you understand the volume of what we're dealing with. So I would scale it down. I think there needs to be, that there should be a third-party review on the applications. Generally speaking, I'm looking at a handicap ramp that is half as long as what it needs to be to get you from point A to point B. So there are some issues with this zoning-wise that I know it's not this commission's purview, but I know you're going to be dealing with parking at some point. I know you're going to be dealing with the volume space here, and there's really no reason why the silos couldn't be integrated with a smaller size building that was in harmony. I don't see a hardship other than we want it this way, and this is the way what we want to build. That, as this commission well knows, is a little bit beyond what they should be asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Hands up.
Good evening. Thank you for speaking so loudly. I've spent some time in this room, and I never hear what people are saying, and I hear everybody here tonight, so I really appreciate that. What? Oh, sorry. I don't have the knack. Robin Parsons, 129 Bellevue Avenue. I want to preface my remarks by saying I am not against the brewery. my problem is with the siting and the design. I spent some quality time with the zoning regulations today. I'm not an expert, but I do believe that one of the city's biggest problems is that it pushes things through without really thinking through the total end result. It's this item, this item, this item, and it doesn't fit together. And I feel that, the Zoning Appeals Board is a crucial step in working towards getting that to happen. From what I read, the Shoreline Commercial Retail District is supposed to provide for convenient commercial development in appropriate locations in proximity to residential areas with uses that take advantage of the waterfront location of the district and the review standards that recognize the unique characteristics of the site. Now, when you look at the requested variances as a group, it becomes clear that the proposed building doesn't suit this zoning district at all. The variances that are being requested represent exceptions to a plan that is otherwise in keeping, not in keeping, with uses permitted in this zoning district. I understand that there's been the change in allowing brewing in all commercial districts. But in my view, the requested variances all work, as the previous speaker said, to satisfy a desire to insert a facility that does not belong in this location. Why do I say that? Okay. Number one, the requirements of the Shoreline Commercial Retail District. To recognize the unique characteristics of the site. What are the unique characteristics of the site? A 39-acre open space parcel containing probably the most iconic image associated with West Haven, as others have said, Savin Rock. None of the variances requested recognize the unique characteristics of this site. In fact, it seems to me they do violence to them. The SCR explicitly excludes any but commercial uses with a maximum height of 35 feet. This proposed brewery is not merely a commercial retail facility. It's a manufacturing facility. And according to the zoning table of uses, and I don't know if this has changed, it requires a special permit even to operate in the SCR zone. It's not reasonable to grant variances that create greater disharmony with the surrounding area for a facility that requires a special permit. Secondly, several of the requested variances are a result of where they have chosen to site the brewery, which is also not in accordance with the recommendations of our Plan of Conservation and Development. The Plan of Conservation and Development specifically urges that buildings in the SCR should be, quote, constructed close to the sidewalk edge along primary streets. It states further that, quote, parking can be on ground level, but should occupy the interior of the lot to the extent possible, and only a minimal amount of street frontage, and be screened by architectural features. Number 3. One of our POCD's key recommendations for open space zones is to consider rezoning neighborhood spaces that are not zoned as open space in order to establish greater consistency between the regulation and utilization of these lands. In other words, the idea would be to make what is the Shoreline Commercial Retail District more like open space, not less like open space. Make the area more coherent, not more incoherent. To grant variances that create a greater disconnect with the surrounding open space ignores this key recommendation. In addition, the POCD clearly states, quote, Future development and redevelopment with direct frontage on coastal waters should be dominated by water-dependent uses. A beer manufacturing facility is not a water-dependent use in the way they mean it. And fourth, the Planning and Zoning Commission has already signaled its interest in respecting and enhancing neighborhood character. They created the Village District Overlay in order to protect the distinctive character, landscape, and historic structures and development pattern of the area. It is reasonable to expect them to look at the areas along the shoreline with a similar concern, as that is what our POCD urges. To grant these variances would fly in the face of not just the goals of what our POCD urges, but also to conflict with the recommendations in our Plan of Conservation and Development and Planning and Zoning's apparent interest in enhancing the aesthetic quotient of the city as a whole. The Zoning Board of Appeals, as I understand it, is charged with using its power to grant variances only in those circumstances wherein practical difficulty has made these regulations almost impossible and/or renders the property unusable. Given that the project itself does not conform with recommendations for the district in which it is proposed, it would be inappropriate to grant the variances that simply expand the injury to the surrounding property. So I oppose granting any variances. I am not opposed to the brewery. I think that it needs to be rethought. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against this application? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Dolores Liebau. I live at 122 Anderson Avenue. I've been a resident of West Haven for 35 years, and I've raised my children here. I also worked for the city for the Board of Education. I love the boardwalk. I love Savin Rock. I love being able to walk down to the water. I'm not against a brewery. You can tell by my accent that I've probably seen a few breweries. But I am opposed to any variances that would allow the structure that we've been presented with here, which, if you look, there's no sign of Savin Rock in the picture, so you don't get an idea of the proportion. It's just a picture of the brewery. So I want to support what the previous speakers have said, because I don't agree with any increase in the size of the lot or the reduction of required side yards for silos. I'm delighted that the signage issue got reduced. What is being proposed, as it is a development that will overshadow the beauty and the social amenity that this part of the shoreline provides to the citizens of West Haven. To allow a private business to build upward and outward on the most scenic part of West Haven, on property that is actually owned by the city, which means it's owned by the citizens of West Haven, it's a very serious matter. To allow it to continue in its current state is a betrayal of all the efforts that have been made in the past and are currently being made by many organizations locally to enhance our natural environment with facilities that blend with conservation and preservation of the threatened shoreline. A well-known man here who has been involved in conservation, I don't want to quote names, has said several times in public, Savin Rock and the shoreline is our Grand Canyon. Please carefully consider your obligation to the citizens of West Haven and exercise due diligence as you review all aspects of what has been asked by this request for a variance. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak against this?
Marilyn Wilkes, 250 Ocean Avenue. I would like to start by saying as well, I'm not necessarily opposed to the brewery, but I am opposed to this particular application because I do not feel that there is a hardship. I certainly understand that this city is in desperate need of economic development. However, I'm here tonight because I am concerned that the city, in its haste to push the NEBCO deal through, is not doing its due diligence in addressing the significant concerns that this project poses. As you know, we have zoning regulations for a reason. This project, like so many others in the city, seems like it's just being rubber stamped without a full understanding of the potential consequences. This building is going to be a hulking presence on the shore. For instance, to my knowledge, residents have not seen a rendering of the NEBCO building situated between Jimmy's and Savin Rock. Why is that? Do we not need to see that to see exactly how this is going to be portrayed, both from the shore and from the street? How can you possibly make any decisions without seeing that? The concern is that the building is going to be so high, it's going to overshadow the icon of the city, which is Savin Rock. Residents need a better understanding of the realities of this project. The project is a big deal. For that location, as Mr. Giuliano had mentioned, it is a very unique business for that location, and there are simply too many unanswered questions about it. Let's not have this be like the Haven, where we are so desperate for development that we throw caution to the wind to make the deal only to end up with a problem, because then it will be too late. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against this application?
Hi, my name is Kathy Hebert. I live at 166 Bloom Street, and I also am not opposed to the brewery. My concern is that the hardships are, as previous speakers have said, self-induced. My main concern is that we're not going to be able to really see Savin Rock. I come from Campbell Avenue area, and as I'm driving west towards Milford, I'm just afraid that the building and the silos are going to obstruct the view that I have every day of Savin Rock. I also walk every morning along the boardwalk, and not really opposed to them moving the pathway, but I just want to make sure that it isn't totally disrupted and take away from the beauty that we have, when I walk every morning. I am really concerned about the height of the silos, that it will just overshadow Savin Rock. And I think we should really appreciate what we have, and I hope that most of us do. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to oppose this application?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Barry Hawkins. I live at 15 Armitage Drive in Bridgeport. That's in the Black Rock section of Bridgeport. I am a former resident of West Haven from 1970 through 1980, and I'm an emeritus director of the West Haven Land Trust. I'm not speaking as an attorney, but I am an attorney. I'm speaking as a member of the Land Trust and as an emeritus director of the Land Trust. Why would the Land Trust have an interest in this brewery? Primarily for reasons that go beyond what the purview of the ZBA is, and I will hold my powder dry for the continuation of the public hearing before P&Z and possibly the City Council meeting to discuss many of the reasons why this is a matter of great interest to the Land Trust and of great concern. Rather, I will just concentrate tonight on just the variations, the variances that have been asked for by you, from this board. The variances have been described by the applicant as being based upon the need, in the words of the managing member of the LLC, the owner, trying to fit this development into this site. That's the hardship that he explained in response to a question from one of the commissioners. What is your hardship? Trying to fit this development into this site. Mr. Giuliano also addressed the issue of hardship and said it's based upon the existence of Savin Rock. We don't want to dig it up. We don't want to dig into it. Obviously, as Mr. Gordon pointed out, rocks go wherever rocks want to go. Probably a good portion of Savin Rock does lie underneath the former Phyllis's site. As you probably also know, Savin Rock was once much larger than it is now. It's about a third of the size of its original historical size. Much of it was destroyed in creation of parking lots in the days of the Savin Rock amusement park. It's not going to be destroyed anymore. It's part of the city heritage. It's part of the city's inheritance. It is an icon, it's a word that's been used tonight. And now we face the prospect of coming across the walkway or coming across the easement, the boardwalk, or in the words of the applicant, the Savin Trail, phrase I've never heard before. And it will be faced by an obstruction on that walkway, on that easement area, by the size of this building and its projection into the present location of the easement. The entire building needs to be repositioned and made bigger because of the needs and the wants of the applicant. Excuse me very much. Cross that off. Pardon. Yep. Yeah. Excuse me. If I take these out, then I won't be able to hear what's on the phone. Pardon for the interruption. The reason for that movement and the creation of this larger building, which will now be, if granted the variances that have been requested, will be larger than, and be taller than Savin Rock is now. As you go on the walkway, relocated closer to the gazebo area, you will not be able to see the Savin Rock. You will not be able to see the area beyond in Bradley Point. It looks like the easement comes to an end because of the size of the projection out on that former walkway, as the walkway goes closer to the water and away from this present site. Why is it so being done that way? Because it's too darn large. It's larger than it needs to be. This is the case of the tail wagging the dog. 5% of the beer to be brewed in this facility will be out of the tap room and the patio, maybe up to 10%. 90% at least of the capacity of that brewery is for going off-site in trucks to be delivered someplace else. 20,000 gallons, I forget what, per week or per day, whatever the capacity was, all going off-site. Why? Because the building is a manufacturing facility being used in a shorefront facility, in a shorefront area, as pointed out by one of the commissioners at the very beginning of this section of the hearing. It is 4 times the size of the present old Jimmy's structure, now called the Conference Center, and formerly having in the basement area the West Haven Historical Museum. The proposed building that you see here is 4 times the footprint of that building. It's 6 to 7 times, we can't quite tell because the plans are a little bit vague as to the total volume of the building and its increased height. But it's at least 6 and perhaps as much as 8 times the volume of the existing building that's to be torn down. Somebody used the phrase 16 ounces, I think it was Mr. Gordon, 16 ounces of beer in a 12-ounce glass. Now, it's more like 100 pounds of manure in a 20-pound bag. It is a building that is built to be large because it's a manufacturing facility being controlled by the subterfuge of having a tap room and a patio that will attract people to the shoreline so that they can drink before going someplace else to dinner. Of course, that would make it a bar. That would make it a brewery bar. Not the restaurant that was called for in the application and in the words of the developer in requesting their application, their description of the facility, which was to be a tap room dash restaurant, a production brewery, a tap room slash restaurant for retail customers. Well, it's not a restaurant. We just heard that described. If it were a restaurant, some of the problems would go away, but that's the whole subterfuge by which we are being asked to accept a brewery, a manufacturing brewery, a production brewery, in a site where it is too small to have it there without interfering with parking, which is another variance that will come back to you. I think Mr. Gordon is absolutely correct in his description of the law. That parking issue will come back to haunt you. It may come back to haunt the developers even sooner, because if it's not a restaurant, it doesn't fall into the category that gives it an exemption from being 1,000 feet from a school. If it's an alcohol serving facility, and it is within 1,000 feet of the West Haven field, which it is, and it's not a restaurant, a full-service restaurant, which it is not, then it doesn't fall into the category that's exempt from the zoning requirement that says you can't have an alcohol-serving establishment within 1,000 feet of a school playground. And the West Haven fields are an integral part of West Haven High School. They clearly are, and they're mentioned in the zoning regs as play fields and playing grounds as being part of the prohibition for having within 1,000 feet. All of these issues will come back to haunt the developer and may make this problem moot, because I don't think that it's going to be built this way. But in the meantime, you have a request for 3 variances before you. I think it probably should have been 5. I think it needs a height requirement variance. I think it needs a parking requirement variance. It doesn't have those, so that's a problem. But just looking at the 3 that you have before you, look at them carefully, because all 3 of them come from one thing. The hardship does not exist. They could have bought a property anywhere to build a manufacturing facility, anywhere where they have a sufficient amount of land and a sufficient amount of zoning requirement that they're in a manufacturing zone or they're in a commercial zone that allows for brewery use. The ones that he's talked about in Milford and Stratford and Bridgeport, I've been to 3 of them. I do like beer. A number of people have said that there's nothing wrong with having a brewery. I agree. But a brewery does not exist, is not supposed to exist in a shoreline area like this that is too small for it to exist without encroaching upon and requiring all these variances that are before you. So you can put a stop to the requirement that they go to the city council next week. You can put a stop to the second continued hearing of the P&Z application for the public hearing next Tuesday. Because if you don't give them the variance, they don't have the right to build this facility. And you should not be giving them the variance, because there is no hardship here. It's a self-induced hardship by their desire to lease property which is not sufficiently sized to take the building that they want to build for the purposes they want to build it. So I would ask you very respectfully on behalf of the Land Trust, do not give them these variances. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak against this application? Anyone else wish to speak against this application? Third and final call. Anyone else wish to speak against this application? Applicant has the right to come up and rebut.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We do have a letter from Attorney Crusaden that
Excuse
covers,
me, yes.
that
All right.
covers all the points that
Yeah,
were,
you handed it to us tonight, so.
yeah,
Is
so,
somebody gonna read it?
Can we waive the reading and just admit it into evidence?
No, I don't think so.
It could be.
You can, because it's in the record, so anyone wishing to see it it's in the file. It is 7 pages.
Are we allowed to do that?
You can just
Can we
accept
do
it.
that?
You can just accept it into the record, or you can read it in.
Do we need a motion for that?
Mr. Turner, can I ask you a question, a legal question?
He is the
On this, what we received tonight, are we allowed to enter this into the record as is, or do we have to read it?
No, you can enter it as long as every member who wants to read it has access to it and is allowed to read it before you make your decision. Okay. It's in writing, it's in English. I mean, yeah, so as long as,
We can't take.
you're the
I can only
people
ask
that
professionals.
enter, you're the people that get to make the decision, as long as you are hearing the record is a public record, anybody can view it after today. So if any member wants to read it, you can read it, as long as it's accessible to every member before they make their decision. You don't have to read it into the record.
We'll have to. You can't take, I don't think I can take any more information from.
Point of orders from the public are
I
not
can't.
proper. As you know, Mr. Gordon,
I
in this
can't take
forum,
point
point
of
of order
order.
can come from one of the members.
So, give a letter, they have no ability to comment on the letter?
The public has the ability to comment on the letter because it's in the record. The public can write after they read the record.
Okay.
The chairman just said, anybody opposed, anybody in for, and that's over. Now you have one record. How are they gonna comment on the letter? They can read the letter after this hearing, and they can comment later if they want to. So every member, as long as you have the right to read the letter, you don't have to read it into the
After
record.
this thing, we'll have to take a few minutes each and read it.
I've read it, so.
I read it.
All right. Taking of evidence is closed. I make a motion, we go into deliberations.
Well,
What-
they got a rebuttal.
Oh, that's right, I asked her to rebut, and I forgot. We got sidetracked. Yes, sir. I asked her.
So, Mr. Chairman, for the record, the taking of evidence isn't closed because. it
Right,
gets to
taking of evidence is not closed.
Retract that.
Go ahead.
Okay, a few points before we start addressing some of the other things. We are not asking a variance for the height because we have met code on the height of the building. Our ADA compliant access ways are ADA compliant. And that, I think, Mr. Sacco can attest to, because we've addressed that actually and wrestled with how to get that in on that. So the only items we are here for on the variance are the 3 that have been stipulated. And quite honestly, in terms of, throwing in my 2 cents worth, yes, we could have gone anywhere in Connecticut. It is New England Brewing Company. We chose West Haven because we thought it was the right place for it. We think it's gonna be good for the city. We think it's gonna be good for the brewery. We think, and I can tell you from over 25 redevelopment projects I've done in my career, that a ripple effect from redevelopment goes all the way through the city. When you do a little bit larger redevelopment on a smaller city, that ripple effect is very big. And it's gonna help the city tremendously. And that's just 2 cents worth. Sorry, I know this is, we're here for the variances. But this whole, hey, go somewhere else, we can. But we chose here for a reason. We wanna be part of this. Marty grew up here. We want to be part of this community and part of this community for a long, long time. We're signing a long-term lease on this thing. My grandkids will be involved in this community with this building. We'll be looking at other sites in the city. This will, with redevelopment like this will be a big ripple, and that it will go all the way through, and other craft brewers, which Marty can attest to, will want to come here because people who go to craft brewers like to hit multiple ones at times. That's why planning changed the zoning to allow other craft brewers throughout, with the idea that more will come in. on this. So on the other items, I'll let Dave Sacco or Marty Giuliano address, but that's all for me.
My name is David Sacco. I'm a civil engineer with TPA Design Group in New Haven, 85 Willow Street in New Haven. I want to specifically speak to the question about height. The height of a gable roof building is measured as the height from the ground to the midpoint of the roof between the eaves and the ridge. The ridge is not the regulated point. So when you have a sloped roof, you're not measuring the top, you're measuring halfway between the eave and the ridge. That is the standard, the definition in the zoning regulations, and this building conforms to it. By that measurement procedure, the height of this building is 32 feet. It complies with the 35-foot maximum height. With respect to the question of open space and lot coverage, the definitions in the regulation are very specific and they have an overlap, which is that normally lot coverage encompasses the building. It also encompasses all of the hardscape, your sidewalks, your parking lots, all of that stuff. Open space specifically includes hardscape areas that provide for the public. In this case, we have a wide public concrete walkway across the front of the site. That counts toward the lot coverage. It also counts toward the open space. So no, the two of them do not have to add up to 100% because some of it counts twice. That's just a quick explanation. That's based on the zoning definitions. I just want to be clear. Parking, as the chair has already said, is not before you, but I do want to reiterate. We have shown a parking calculation based on the regulations of the City of West Haven. It is the intent to comply and provide all of the required parking, and the team is in the process of arranging off-site parking to fully comply with the regulations at this time. We have no intention of coming back for a parking variance. Thank you.
The things I was gonna rebut, I'm gonna refrain from because statements made by Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Gordon are not part of the variances that we're requesting. So I'm gonna refrain from rebutting for them and save it for the next meeting they come to.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
One of the questions that was raised, why not a little bit smaller?
So-
Why not? You're the guy,
Yeah.
you tell me, I want to
So-
know from you.
Being in this business, we've moved twice so far, and to invest well over $20 million in this project to come to this city, to be out of space in a year and a half, 2 years, to look for a new facility, doesn't make sense. We've left space internally in the building to put 6 240-barrel fermenters on the floor in a space which will allow us to grow and make this a lifetime move so that we do not have to move and nothing would change outside the building. We wouldn't need to put an addition on. We wouldn't need to do any of that. Everything would still be contained and our growth could still come internally within the space by adding 6 new tanks.
So a smaller unit, even if it was only by, where you're going from 18 and a half to 25 feet, that's, 6.5 feet. 6.5 feet would kill your project?
6.5 feet of the narrowness of the building. What we've incorporated, one of the things that we've done to try to be good stewards for the city is to incorporate a 19-foot wide space that's going to house the Savin Rock Museum in the building. So if you said you guys didn't want to put the museum in there and you wanted to narrow the building, you could do that. We're trying to do something to enhance, be part of the community. people can come in there, you want schools to come in and see the museum and see the memorabilia and teach a class in there or whatever, we'll make that space available for that to happen.
Well, that was my question. If that did happen, would that be enough space for you? If the museum were not there? I don't know if that's possible or has been discussed, but would that provide enough space without needing these variances?
I mean, we could, but we think it's important, actually, and part of the task we were given too. In the beginning, when we talked about it, it was important to still pay homage to what was there at this site, which includes a lot of those museum pieces. And there will be, some of them will be permanent, other ones that you have a curator who's going to rotate them through. Also, I forgot to mention, we do have a kitchen on site, so it is a full.
That's why I didn't rebut it, 'cause
Yeah,
it wasn't.
but, anyway, so if we reduce that, yes, that's where it would come off of.
So, yeah, also.
When members are done, Chairman Clifford?
Sure.
Yes. Are you moving the whole museum into your place, or just part of the museum?
It's gonna be part of it, but it's gonna be rotated. In other words, they have, just let me finish. They have tons of stuff, they have some stored at Yale now, and they're going, from what my understanding is, it'll be set up so long, and then somebody who's in charge will decide to rotate and put some new stuff in, like they do at the Peabody Museum. They have lots of stuff stored, they have stuff stored at Yale too, and they rotate it in and out. And I think this is what is going to happen there. The museum will there, but they'll rotate in, so when you go in, if you go in this month, 4 months from now, you go in again, you'll see something different.
There'll be some
Which to
permanent
me-
pieces probably, and then some, and then a bunch that
There'll be
would
someone in
rotate.
charge of that.
So, yeah, it hopefully
Clear what the mayor
encourages
wanted to say.
multiple visits to the museum. with
That's
rotation.
that's where I was gonna, say, if people know that something's going to be different, they'll be more up to go instead of a one and done kind of thing.
Did you want to say something, Mayor?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Being Pat, I am the mayor, and I can hear the phone ringing. That phone didn't stop, and it was concerned residents, people who still lived here and people who moved away, what was going to happen to the contents of the museum. They were afraid, it was all over Facebook, anybody who was looking at Facebook, is this stuff getting destroyed, who's good, taken care of? This is an integral part of our history. I love the idea of the rotation. We've taken great lengths to go through everything. It's all been charted. Thank you to Beth Sabo and her group of people that took care of all of this. I think it's a wonderful fit. And if we don't incorporate it in the brewery, what do we do with it? Do we leave it in the basement now? Well, what would be the answer? I'll tell you right now, the residents, I know what their answer is. They want to see it, they want to go there, they want to be able to see the stuff on display. And rotation is great because, again, it's only X amount of space, you can't have, any more footage for it. And I think that, and I want to thank them for incorporating and listening to the needs and the will of the residents. Thank you.
I'm not questioning, I'm not saying we should get rid of the museum. I think we should have that museum. I'm not sure that if I'm going to a brewery to have a glass of beer, which I don't drink, that I would want to then go to a museum with that beer. I mean, to me, it's not, that doesn't
Actually,
fit.
the museum is a separate walkway, it's separated from everything, so it's not where you're going to a
Have a beer.
brewery to have a beer.
Not gonna have a
You're-
beer.
And whatever its
No
hours
beer
of
in the museum.
operation.
If you're
Okay.
Well,
there.
the museum.
If you're
sorry.
there.
Hours of
walk-
operation for the museum, are they gonna be the
If
same as the brewery?
Yes.
If you're walking, want to go into the museum, from what I've been told, you'll be able to go into the museum.
Without ever
when
going
it's-
into
without ever
the
going
tasting
to the
room or
brewery.
brewery or anything
So,
like that.
if you're down there walking with your kids and you want to go in, and you don't want them in the brewery, when
You
they're
can
7 or 8 years old,
Okay.
you can walk in and go.
Okay.
I'm sure
Okay.
people thought the same thing when Jordan's Furniture came in and you had to walk through Jordan's to get to it in the back and back and forth. They thought the same thing. Oh, nobody's gonna go through buy furniture in it. Well, they're gonna
Anything
buy a
else?
beer.
Anything else you like to add, gentlemen? Okay,
No, I
thank
think
you.
that's it.
Now, taking
Thank
that,
you.
one
Thank
thing,
No, just to address some comments that were made, so there was a comment made that we haven't seen the building located between the rock and the shoreline and whatnot. Just for the record, the plans that y'all have that are in the record show the building, they show the location of the building on the site.
Yeah, he had it up there.
Yeah, it was up there, so I just wanna clear that up for the record.
It was the same one that we have here.
Yeah.
He had up there.
There was a comment made about, the village district overlay. The village district overlay does not apply here. The Planning and Zoning Commission has not extended that review of design and some of the other criterias all the way down Campbell Avenue. It's up at in the central business district.
That's Brown Street it stops, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. There was a comment made about open space and that the plan of conservation and development calling for for the open space to kind of be applied more so than not. If you listen to the comment properly, it mentioned about in residential areas where lots were not being utilized. This lot has 66% lot coverage currently of hard space, so currently it's parking and building, so it's mostly covered in some kind of hard space.
It's an increase of 4.7%.
The increase is, yeah, a little under 5%. So in that regards, the idea that open space
No,
should
open
be.
space, I'm sorry, was increased because it's 45 is the minimum, it's 40.
No,
Okay.
the lot coverage is currently at like 66.10 or 66.01%.
66.1.
Yeah, so, the comment was made that the open space, according to the plan of conservation and development, should be expanded. I think it should be clear that that was meant in areas where the lots were underutilized and vacant to begin with, and then taken on to be, open space. And then comments about, the plan of conservation and development calling for buildings to be moved forward, right? That is correct. But if you look at the current plan of conservation and development, it still shows the Savin Rock Conference Center on the site, and they proposed, or there's it's not a proposal, but an idea that other buildings would line Rock Street and would line Campbell Avenue, and that on-street parking would be created. So it's important to note that, and even Mr. Gordon agrees with the idea that the buildings stay closer to the waterfront to maximize the use of the waterfront. In his letter that he provided to P&Z at our last meeting, he says, although the City of West Haven Planning, Conservation, and Development takes a position encouraging new development up close to Captain Thomas Boulevard, we concur with the applicant's plan to retain parking along the road. Investment along the shorefront warrants proximity to the shorefront. Pushing buildings to the road with parking along the water is not in harmony with coastal goals. We support the plan to repurpose the pavement at the front of the building setback for services, from service drives to parking requested in the special permit. So that was in support of one of the special permit asks, that parking be left in the front and the building be left along the water. So.
But again, those items aren't before us.
Well, but they are on the record, so we need to clarify them.
They're nothing we're going to address.
No, but there's the comments made with regard to the plan of conservation and development are because in the granting of the variance can't be such that it's a substantial detriment or incongruous with the plan of conservation and development. So for the purposes of your conversation, when you consider, is it in harmony with the plan, right? You received arguments that the plan of conservation and development said that you can't put buildings along the shorefront. And so it's important to note that keeping the building where it's at is considered to maximize the use of the shorefront, as opposed to bringing it out to Captain Thomas Boulevard. And that is something that is in harmony with our current plans.
All right, taking evidence is closed. Have a motion to go into deliberations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first application was.
1083,
So
1091.
Orange Avenue.
You have your, page.
Yeah. What they do with it.
That's why I take notes and write.
Here it is, right here.
Okay. Have a motion to
Mr. Chairman, I make a mo, oh, I'm sorry.
approve 1083, 1091 Orange Avenue, file 1421B.
Excuse me.
Okay, have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we,
Oh, we'll go with Rich this time.
Who?
Me. Rich.
You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we'll go to,
Sammy.
Sammy.
All right, so it's the Commissioner Kasha, and then who seconded?
well, I didn't make it yet.
Oh.
Well, come on.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve 1083 through 1091 Orange Avenue, file number 014-22V with no conditions.
okay?
I'll second.
Okay, second, the discussion. This is the two businesses that were there. 1964, one of them was, the two lots were combined, 75, the other two, for some unknown reason, the lot line between the two never got put on the deeds, or they didn't finish what they were doing, but in the assessor's office, they're taxed as two separate lots. So we were just correcting what was
Yeah,
done.
it's a paperwork.
35 years ago.
We're correcting a paperwork.
Anybody have any comments there? There's no changes or anything in it, except we're just correcting the line.
I agree that we should, get it formalized, but my hope was that the applicant would include the second parcel, which is not on this. The first part were the car, oil
It does,
changes.
It separates both properties.
I know that, but the first parcel that we're talking about
Yeah.
is going to be the oil change, which is in pretty decent shape, and they
Yeah.
keep their property nice. The guy next door, there's junk cars, there's
Different
pieces of cars, there's everything, right on Post Road.
I don't disagree with you,
He's
but it's different
moving
owner.
out.
He's moving.
He's moving
He's
out.
moving
Oh,
out.
he is?
He's in the process of going to Bethany.
Well, let him go somewhere.
Yeah.
He's
They-
moving
Knows
out.
everything.
All right.
Well, they took all
He's
the,
the car guy.
all the
Any-
trees and everything are gone.
I know
They
everything that's gone.
redid all that.
Any
Those cars are
other,
gone.
He's moving out.
I was there
That's why it
today.
looks like that.
any other?
You're talking about the white one, or are you talking about the actual oil change place?
No, the next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
They
he's
chopped all
moving to
those trees.
Bethany.
There's a
Okay.
motion and
All
a
right,
second.
motion, let's get, any other comments? Roll call vote.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeo?
Yes.
Mr. Clifford?
Yes. 1083, 1091 Orange Avenue, file 014-22V is approved. Next application, 588 Washington Avenue, 015-22V. I have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve 588 Washington Avenue, again with no conditions.
Second?
Second.
Okay, that's the solar.
Haven.
It's in that district. Solar's on the side.
And who's the alternate?
Pardon me?
Alternate,
Sammy.
Sammy.
Sammy's voting on this one.
Sammy? All right, and then,
Okay. Any questions, any comments? Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Clifford?
Yes, 588 Washington Avenue,
It's late.
015-22V is approved. Okay, Dawson Avenue, 53 Dawson Avenue, oh, well, that's continued, no, that's not
No.
continued.
No, the
Next
next
one.
one.
Baldwin, sorry.
016-22, 53 Dawson Avenue, motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve it with the deed restrictions that are in it, because this property was sold by the city to these people. It's
One-family house.
one family, has to be, the deed restriction is a one-family unit only.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. I mean, it was sold to build a one-family house. What?
He's holding it.
Okay, we're not voting yet. though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. But it's a one-family house. Right now, it is an eyesore down there. All the people that have mentioned it, I've seen it numerous times. Anybody else would like to comment on this one? Seeing
He's gotta
none?
clean it up.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
he's gonna clean, he has to clean up the build. You
I think he
can't,
built it.
there's no way you could build without cleaning it up. Okay, Roll call vote?
Ms. Porto?
Yes.
Mr. Zantarski?
Yes.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Kasha?
Yes.
Mr. Clifford?
Yes. 53 Dawson Avenue, file 16-22 is approved, just the condition, it's a one-family house as put in the deed. Okay. 12 Baldwin Street is
Been continued.
Continue.
continued. You got 6 Rock Street. File 018-22, I have a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve 6 Rock Street, file 018-22.
Sammy? Not Sammy.
No,
Second?
Second, I meant to say, and I came out with
Sammy, second, both.
Sammy, you're second.
Second.
Second, okay.
Wait,
He's not voting.
he's not
I don't think
voting.
he could do
No,
it.
he can't second it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could just remind the board to state their reasons for approval on the record, please.
okay.
So I need a second, because he can't, because Sammy
Okay.
can't do it, he's not voting.
Then Rich,
All right, thanks.
Or denial, for that matter.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Already made.
Okay, and a second, discussion.
Can I ask, is Corporation Counsel, can he answer some questions for us? We're in a
I don't know
discussion.
if we can do that now, I don't think so.
If I'd known that, I would have asked when he was up earlier.
Well,
Normally, our discussion.
I don't think he can answer questions, but he may be able to.
I mean, you can ask me questions if you think what you're doing is illegal. I mean, you don't want to do anything illegal. You can't ask me questions that,
It's new evidence.
yeah, new evidence, or I'm editorializing on how you should vote. So,
No, I just wanted to ask a question about something that was raised that I don't quite
Well,
understand.
ask
so I-
that.
You can ask it, and I can say if I think it'll
Okay.
cloud the record, I won't
the-
answer.
It's in regards to the size of the building requires the easement, I guess it was called, in the back of the building where the walkway is. So the variances we're gonna grant are making it so that that easement has to be moved. Okay, does that need anybody's permission other than, like, for example, does the land trust have to sign off on that?
City, I think I'll try and answer it. If I'm wrong, he can tell
Oh,
me
I
I'm
just-
wrong. It has to go to the city council.
Right.
The city council has to approve that, then it has to go to the zoning board. So that's not approved, we're not approving that, but the only way that can be done, and I'm not sure exactly what the city council has to do in there on the legal perspective. They have a public hearing scheduled for something else on Monday with a parking issue with them. But it has to be approved by them, and then it has to go through the zoning board. And that's the only way that can be changed, is what
I wouldn't add to that, because I don't want to cloud your record. So your chairman has spoken, and I have no reason to.
Okay.
But I
I was just curious.
I
You have to speak through the
question
chair.
that-
Well, I just don't want us,
Mr. Chair.
everybody to get all excited all of a sudden, and somebody pulls a rabbit out of the
I
hat,
don't,
poo-poos
you
this
can
whole
ask,
thing.
I don't know if we can
So I
answer.
figured we'd ask the
Ask
question.
and out.
Plans
He'll
are,
decide whether he can answer.
Yeah, well, I can try to
Okay.
answer, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, can we add a hardship by saying the hardship is that they have to have the museum?
Make it a
I
condition.
made that up, but,
Well, it's a point that we're asking them, or the city is asking them to put the museum in there.
Well, we could make it a condition.
If the museum wasn't there, they probably wouldn't need any hardships.
Mr.
my
Chair.
question
Yes.
is,
I
does it
wouldn't put
meet the requirement?
I think the question you're asking is, well, I should say this. If you believe that that's what's causing the hardship, then that's what you should state on the record.
I don't think it should be a condition, because if for any reason something happens with the museum, where the museum says, you know what, I want to go somewhere else
That's
that's
Well,
better,
well, wait a minute.
I want to go to the Havens,
Yeah,
then where does that leave them? They have to
Wait a
close
minute.
up?
No, we're not gonna put, but they're putting it in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be in there. They stated if it wasn't there, they wouldn't even need the variances. So it possibly could be, part of the hardship is they're doing the city part by keeping it there and not putting it out. I think it's a good point to bring people there for them too, and it's
Sure.
a smart business decision.
That could be
But we
also-
are making it bigger to accommodate the
Museum.
Savin Rock
Well,
Museum.
that's my problem,
Yeah, that's-
because I don't see the hardship unless
Yeah.
you can say that the
Well,
museum is a hardship.
I would see,
don't see
I
it.
mean, I would look at that, you brought it up, and it's a good point. I would think that would be part of the hardship, because we're asking them, they're doing the museum, and if we didn't have the museum, they wouldn't be here asking for these variances, because they wouldn't need them.
My point.
Okay, that's a good point.
But
you know,
I haven't
but we
heard
could-
anything that requires my comments
No,
yet, so I'm gonna sit
I'm
down.
trying to answer it so you don't have to.
But I mean, but I understand what Carol's saying, but, I mean, it was brought out, but somebody said, oh, this is a self-induced. Well, you know what? Everything that comes before us could be classified as
No.
self-induced. You could build a
I don't
smaller
agree
house. It
with
might
that.
only be 2 feet wide, but you could build it.
I don't agree with that. I mean, that's why I voted against the Cumberland Farms, because it wasn't the land that caused the hardship, it was what they planned to put on it. And I think that's the same with this.
I think the museum is a good point there, in making, you know, that's why it's going to be that big.
Then, can I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, that we make that as a condition? Not so that if the museum themselves choose to close or move somewhere, that it would affect them, but they make the space available. We make it a condition that they make the space available for the museum as long as the museum would want to be there. Then this way, we've got the hardship covered for that.
My question is,
I don't think there should be any
whose
conditions.
museum is it? It's the city's
I think you
museum.
should
Chair,
just,
I think what is happening is that you folks might be coming to some conclusion about a reasoning for a hardship,
Yeah.
right?
Me.
What you do is, it's not a condition, you state it on the record. So you would state, I approve or deny, because we find that if not for.
Well, why can't you make it a condition? We've done that in the past.
We don't have to make it a condition.
We don't have to, but we could.
But
I don't think it's fair to them.
It's not a, it's not a condition.
I don't think it's fair to make a condition on that. I don't.
I don't think
No,
it's the
I don't
same
think it
issue.
should be a
It's
condition.
not,
I just think
I'm
it's
just
part.
looking at it moving forward in a
I-
legal
I-
sense. You
but
get
a legal-
challenged that we gave the
We-
reason for the
You know
condition.
what, we're not giving it up, because it's going in there. We could pass it.
or we could not pass it.
No, we're
if
not
we-
passing it,
if-
but
Or not pass it if we don't think there's a hardship. But if we say the city's requiring that the city feels that we need to have that museum there, and that's really the reason we're causing the hardship,
I think we should put it in that the city feels it would be a benefit to the citizens of West Haven to have the museum there. If we state it that way, what we're doing is we're offering it out as a compromise.
Okay.
The city feels it's in the best interest to have the museum located and where the citizens of West Haven have access.
And we have the chief executive officer of the city here who has said that on the record, so there's a reason.
All right.
That's a good way to put it, I think.
Okay. Any other comments? Did you have your hand up, Carol?
Well, no, her point is what, basically what we're gonna say.
Yeah. Oh,
It's-
okay.
it's
I saw her
hardship.
hand up like this.
well,
Well,
just
it's
tell me
okay.
to say
Yeah.
something. I
Well,
don't know
yeah.
what, I already said it.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Roll call vote.
Ms. Porter?
Yes, if we consider having the museum is causes a hardship.
I will state it on the record when we're done.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes, and I
Mr.
feel it's in the best interest of the citizens of West Haven to have the museum available at that location.
Mr. Kasha?
Yes, and I agree with Mr. Weiss's reason. It's in the best interest of the city of West Haven and its citizens because it's already at that site. Senior citizens will know where it is. Everybody knows where it is. The trolley already goes, it used to go there. I don't know if it still does, but it's definitely in the best interest of the city.
Mr. DeLeo?
Listen to both sides,
wait,
listen to
wait.
the pros,
One,
listen to the
Two,
cons.
well, he's not voting. Is he?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
missed
voting
that.
now.
No, you are voting.
Okay.
You're voting.
I'm not counting.
Does anybody know I'm here?
I thought we had 4 people vote already.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
You haven't talked all night.
Jeez.
Mr. DeLeo, vote, please.
I was gonna make it, I've listened to the pros, listened to the cons, and I think in the final analysis of all of the rhetoric that was going on back and forth, I think it is in the best interest of the citizens of West Haven that this brewery project gets built, and with the Savin Rock Museum located inside of it to give it access to the people of West Haven. So I vote yes.
Mr. Clifford?
Yes, on the record, part of the hardship being, is we're having Savin Rock Museum, they are accommodating us, it's always been there. Everybody will remember where it is, in the future.
Okay.
So, application, let's do this right, 6 Rock Street, file 018-22, is approved. Okay?
And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the citizens of West Haven, because they really did want this museum to be incorporated into it.
Have a motion to
Motion to adjourn, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
excuse me. Oh, you
No,
had
no,
something
no,
to say?
I was making a motion.
Go ahead.
No, no, no.
Okay, motion
Just
to
agree with
adjourn?
the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. How many don't want it?
Everybody done?
Listen, I would build a steel mill on the beach.
All of the materials from the museum, ZBA organization, have been cataloged. All the pieces have been inventoried. The inventories are available if someone wants to look and see if they're being housed by Yale in a climate-controlled environment. In there, you're welcome. You're welcome.
They're coming before us tomorrow because they need a little break. They don't
In a
need-
climate-controlled environment, so if you do have a rotation at a museum site, it's really going to be nice because the materials are going to be preserved as they come in.
I would prefer an ice cream shop and a coffee shop.
I just want